Now that's all fucking good. Welcome, man. This is an exciting fucking moment, yo. Anyhow,
Thanks for
y'all know what it is. This is Bridge the Gap. This is the show where we talk to the different peoples out there to pick their brains, go through their story, and acquire some knowledge so we can bridge some fucking gaps in our lives and learn some shits and, move on with all that good stuff. This is a cool one for me. This is really sincerely cool. And I don't think we've really like spoken before actually
having
ever. But let me tell y'all, because like I want to start this up how I do. I like to just hype up the shit, because Merker Miyagi is fucking dope. That's who we're
us.
talking to here. I think he's fucking dope. I think like this guy's Facebook is the littest shit on Facebook right now. His hot takes are fucking ridiculous. He gets comment threads that just go, and when you read through them, it's entertainment for days. There are lovers, there are people that sincerely just seem to be there to like just get in on the action. It's fucking fascinating to watch, but that's not really the most interesting part of him. That's just how he popped up into my life on my radar, because I'm gonna be real with you. English Montreal hip hop of a certain age is a very tight Facebook group, and it just kind of is what it is. And there's a lot of us there, and Merker's kind of like a central point. Everybody fucking loves this guy's name. But on top of that, he has a studio. He does a lot of engineering stuff. He does a lot of that kind of stuff. He makes beats. He does all that kind of stuff as well. He's also an MC. We just spent a whole bunch of time earlier listening to his music. All sorts of versatility, all sorts of intense, real topics, in my opinion. I'm going to say the Long Nights Project is one of the coolest things I ever heard in the city. I don't know if anyone else agrees with me. That's not really the thing. It's just for me, that shit resonated with me at an ethereal, personal level. It made me feel like, damn, this guy's on the same wavelength, which is not a feeling I get very often listening to music, especially local music. It was like, damn, that's some fucking cool shit. I've seen the man post all year. His heart and soul and spirit are in a very interesting place, in my opinion. I'd have to say, this is truly a desire. I wanted to get this guy way earlier in the year. And then COVID came, and he's like, let's do it in person. I'm like, fair. And then schedules is hard. And before this online thing, it was super fucking hard to get anybody to like come to my crib and do this shit, right? And then COVID came, and in September we shut down, and everyone's like, fucking fine, I'll do the Hangouts version or whatever. And now here we are finally at this moment where it took a long time. Not that like he like blew me off or anything. It's just we were kind of waiting for life to like be in person again. But finally it worked out. The schedules came out. We doing a late episode, which is amazing because I'm on vacation and can do a late episode. So it's just everything just fucking aligned perfectly for this one. Anyway, it's my pleasure to have you here, dude. This is real exciting for me because there's a lot about you I don't know, and I'm looking forward to learning it.
Thanks for having me, for real, for real. If I can just interject for 1 second, first of all, I want to thank you for those kind words regarding the Long Nights Project, because it's definitely my magnum opus. It means the world to me. So for somebody to be able to connect with it like that really means the world to me. But more than anything, I want to shout you out first to start, because people have been crying about having a hip hop radio station, a platform in Montreal for hip hop artists to be able to play their music and whatever, get their voice heard. And you're single-handedly doing that. You're literally taking the time to sit down with almost everybody from the hip hop scene and getting their story and everything. So people talk and people complain, and you're actually doing it. So big up yourself, man. That's big.
I appreciate that. There's definitely others out there. I'm not the only one. I just want to say
No, no,
like that for sure. But I
yeah,
appreciate
no,
that you recognize that. That's cool. I am definitely trying to work within the realms of what's out here to do something more. Just kind of how it is. I learned along the way that giving is more powerful than trying to be number one for your whatever. And I don't know. This is what it is. This is what I can bring to the table, okay? This is what I can offer. I'm never going to be that engineer producer dude, but I can talk like a motherfucker and smoke some joints.
there
But
you
I
go.
do want to get started. And I know, one more thing. For all history for this particular Twitch channel, Merker Miyagi is actually the first ever legit subscriber we got, as in guy that is not connected to me in some networking way subscribing to this channel in a direct way. So that's fucking huge too for the history of this. So that's amazing. Like to me, it hit my heart and soul. Like, damn, Merker subbed. That's fucking big. That's cool. But yeah, so that was amazing too. But let's get into it though. I'm excited. First question is my staple question. It is what it is. My girlfriend, for those that, might have heard it, whatever. My girlfriend's doing the dishes once upon a time. She fucking bumping up to that Black Eyed Peas song, that whole like I Got a Feeling track, right, or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, back in the day, This is some club music, right? This is some shit people's bopping around to, and everybody knows that song from my age group because we all bopped out to it at some point or another. And then now she's doing chores to it, which got me thinking about vibes. It got me thinking about the whole structure of music, right? So when we were kids, our parents were listening to certain things, and that was the chores music, which used to be their club music. And I'm like, okay, there's some connections going on here. But as this has evolved, it's more like I realized your musical journey doesn't actually start with your preferences. It starts a lot with the influences in the world around you, such as what your parents listened to when they did chores, such as the way, the car rides. I don't even know if you have siblings, but siblings may have played an influence. All sorts of factors came into it. So what we want to do is start with your little Merker Miyagi, little kid. What was the sounds going on in your life? And also, how were these sounds being done? Like how was all that playing out for you?
For sure. Well, on my end, might be a little different than most because I watch your show and I hear a lot of the similarities because obviously same kind of era. A lot of people grew up hearing the same kind of stuff. Might hit you with a little bit of left field because me and my parents were a little bit of hippies, and so it's actually I grew up doing road trips is when we would listen to music, and my mother would be bumping Peter, Paul, and Mary, and Puff the Magic Dragon, and Simon and Garfunkel, and these kind of things. So it was my, road trip music, and that's what I came up listening to on my mother's side. For my father, he was really into classical music. So, back in the 80s, CDs might have not been that big. They were kind of starting to pop off or whatever, but he had like a big rack of CDs like this, the Vivaldis, the Mozarts, the Beethovens, all of it, A through Z. And that's what he used to bump in the house. So those were my main influences coming up.
So classical and that stuff my mom used to listen to. Respect.
There you go. I don't know if it's folk music or what. I
don't know how to put it either. I know like what it is, but nah, I'm having trouble placing it. I guess folk is a good one for it. For lack of it. That's cool. So like, were y'all also exposed to radio? Like,
not so much. That was more like in my early teens. Radio was definitely a big thing. Listening to radio, that's where I would try to catch songs to record on tape. When I really liked the song, I would try to catch it on the radio and record it so that I could have it. So there was definitely radio influence in my life, but that's not like what I remember listening to like growing up. When I wasn't in control of it, it wasn't much radio stuff.
That's cool though, and I find that it's interesting because as time goes on, there seems to be connections. Like right away though, you don't have that mainstream influence, and listening to your music today, no offense, it's not the most mainstream sound, right? Like you have a lot of mainstream elements, but when you really break it down, it really stands out in its own little thing. So I find it so fucking cool when people are able to have these like little, I find there's such a correlation, I guess, between these little stories and how people's sounds ends up being. And like, I find it really just fun to kind of track it all.
I see it in my production 100%. Like me, if there isn't a guitar, a piano, or a violin, it's like, that's like the core of almost every beat I make. I can't hear it without that, so it's like definitely from those influences where it came.
I definitely like that style of beats, just personally, because I'm into all kinds of music more than just the hip hops. But let's go on to the next bit. As you're growing up, right, somewhere in the puberty era, you get to that point where you start to develop a musical identity of your own. I don't know when it is or what it was, but do you remember that moment when you're like, fuck it, now I'm into music, what song it was, what was happening?
Me, I remember coming home and my brother was bumping MC Hammer, Can't Touch This, and it was through the door that I heard it because that's how he was bumping, and it was the bass line. And so me looking back, I used to think like, okay, MC Hammer, I was drawn to that, but really and truly it's Rick James, right? If I'm not mistaken, that's what he sampled for Can't Touch This. So really it was that bass line that just, what is that about? It was like blew my mind, and it said, yes, I want more of this, So it sent me into that. And it was the Vanilla Ices and because I went in from the mainstream door, let's say,
the like 1990 mainstream door.
Yeah, exactly. So it was, it was listening to MC Hammer, Can't Touch This, and trying to lock down because the time ago I'm MC Hammer, go Hammer, and the rest can't go. Trying to play with that rhyme flow and rap along with it or whatever. I wanted to write out the lyrics. I remember my brother helped me write out the lyrics. They Can't Touch This. I wanted to follow along. This is before all the stuff, all the stuff that's available now. You have to write the shits out yourself. So yeah, that's when it like really came. But then I remember the first CD I ever had. I think I was in grade 5 or something like that,
Okay.
and my dad bought me Ooh on the TLC tip by TLC. That was my first CD. And I ABC, Another Bad Creation, Playground, Aisha, you know. So these were like the early things, and then Rap City came into my life, you know. And this is at a time where people don't realize, like, obviously we can listen to rap whenever we want now or whatever the case is, but this is, you know, 11, 12-year-old me in Vancouver, BC, and it
Yo, hold
was.
up. Actually, can we just pause for a second? I keep forgetting to ask this question early, but where were you born?
So I was born in France. Actually, a lot of people have this impression that I was born and came up in California, but I was born in France. And so both my parents French, like my whole family French from France, you know. And then I moved to Vancouver when I was 7, so that became the English. And then in my teens is when I moved to California, and then had my like kind of coming of age there, and then moved to Montreal.
All right, let's go back to we're in the California area, somewhere between Vancouver and California now.
Yeah, exactly, Vancouver. This is still Vancouver at
All
times
right,
now.
that's crazy. See, I know any of this shit, right? And that's why we're doing this, because, you know, one day maybe somebody writes up a Wikipedia, puts the little linksy poo, and now it's actually on fucking wax, yo, because I don't know how many people even know this shit. That's all I'm saying. Holy fuck,
Yeah.
6 people on the Facebook. Hop on over to the Twitch is all I'm saying. Anyhow, so yeah, let's go back into high school. You're writing lyrics and you want to be a rapper off the jump, but there's a couple other elements that are worth asking about. Is young Callie a dancer? Does he get into the dancing side of things?
Oh, it's funny that you mentioned that. Absolutely was a dancer, the Running Man and all that stuff. I was the one at the parties, at the church parties when I was. This is again like 11, 12, somewhere around there, and I would go there and everybody's standing up on the walls, nobody's doing anything. And then I would just be like, I just say, fuck it. And my song comes on. I go to the middle of the dance floor. I start breaking it down. There's a circle around me. All, you know, you brought me back with that one. I actually forgot about those times. But yeah, absolutely. That's what it was. It
That's
was dancing.
amazing.
And one time, actually, I entered when I was the same thing around 10, 11, those times. My
Yo,
mom entered into a.
sorry. Shout out Misery for the follow. I gotta shout them out when they follow. It's the rules.
Yeah, cut me off whenever. Allah. So when I was like 11 or some around those times, my mother entered me into a modeling contest at the mall, and so I knew I needed like some kind of gimmick or something, you know, to make me stand out from everybody else, because it was literally like you walk out, you do your turn, you come back, you know, and then the next person, and there was judges.
So you
So
were
I
a
mean,
model. You were a
model,
model.
model. Oh yeah, model life, baby. You already know.
When did that start?
No, I'm not. Well, this is my mom entered me into this modeling
Okay, so
contest.
that was the start of it. Okay, fair.
Yeah, I don't know why she did that, but hey, she did it. And so me, I said, yo, I'm gonna go out there. I walked up, and then when I got to the top of the stage, watched the Running Man at 2 times, did the worm, came back up, did my spit, so you know, like, help myself stand out. So then I got called back into the next round. And the next round, I was like, okay, what? I got to do something different now. So I put on my Michael Jordan jersey and my Michael Jordan shorts, and I came out with the basketball, and I did a little through the legs thing or whatever, and then walked off. But I guess the basketball thing didn't catch like the dancing thing, so I didn't make it into like the final stage or whatever. But you know, the dancing got me over the hump.
That's still crazy, man. That just shows how innovative you are, right? Because, like, yo, you're young now, right? And you're in a competition. So it's not just like, look, people don't necessarily, not everybody's, like, that in touch with shit when they're young. And that's what I think is really, really impressive, is when you're able to, like, make an observation, like, yo, I'm in this fucking, yo, what's up, Liddy, bro? I'm in this situation where, like, I got to compete with everybody out there. So why don't I go out there and fucking outperform these motherfuckers on every fucking level? And that's a level of dedication to a craft or to a situation that, again, like, yo, if I had that shit when I was young, holy shit, you know, that's some, like, I didn't learn that until I was old as fuck. So anytime somebody goes, yo, I learned that lesson young, I'm just like, this guy's fucking smart.
Actually, quick funny story about that whole incident. When I woke up the morning of, I was so sick to my stomach, and I threw up. I actually woke up and threw up. And so I told my dad, I said, yo, listen, I can't go. I'm sick. My dad said, no, you're just nervous. I said, no, you don't understand. I'm sick. I threw up. Like there's, you know, there's something wrong. He said, no, you're just nervous. You're going. I go with my mom. We walk into the mall. I throw up in my mouth. Like, I know it's kind of nasty, but I
Ah,
don't
man, it's fun. Well,
run to the bathroom, throw up again. And it was literally nerves, but I had no idea what it was. I thought I was just sick because it was obviously just nerves, and then went through, and it ended up being a positive experience.
so you literally had your own mom spaghetti moment.
Facts.
That's
There you go.
amazing. Yo, shout out Rockamaniac for the follow. So let's so yeah, that's amazing. So already you're like dancing, you're a performer. So that's pretty dope, man. Like right off the jump, those are a couple elements of your personality that are coming through. You're still in high school at this point. So how do you
That's actually still elementary school.
oh
This
you're still
isn't
at
just
elementary at this
yeah,
point.
it's like 10 and 11. This is like, yeah, I'm young still. I'm young. This is like grade 5, grade 6.
Fuck, dude, that's some cool shit. No, for real, like that's some cool shit. I'm glad that you shared that with us. You didn't have to, but you did. That's awesome stuff. So what comes next then after that? So you're a young one, you already got the bug lit up in you. You want to get it at this point, or are you just doing it for fun?
Oh, I'm just going with the motion. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like I said. I don't know why my mom put me in it. She put me in it. I was happy to do it. Like, what really turned me more musically is, again, still that time around 10 or 11 for Christmas. My dad bought me a computer program called Rock, Rap, and Roll. And this is like, I don't know if you know this, you can look it up. There's still, and this is like the most basic elements of production. Basically, it's like these loops, and you can choose your loops, and you just drop them in their 4-bar loops, and you put them in sequence. And so it basically like taught me the breakdown of songs and just the general like how a song is built, basically. And again, I don't know what struck him to get me that, but he got me that, and it just kind of sent me on my journey.
All I know is, and I forgot about this. I'm not even gonna lie. I fucking forgot about this. Is that my dad got me a shitty beat making looping program that was a little more advanced than that when I was in high school. Or I think he got it for himself, but I ended up using it, and I had forgotten that thing. I don't remember what it was called, but man, that's amazing. That's a cool thing
Yeah.
to remember.
Yeah, for sure. And then me, I took because my dad was self-employed. He always had his own businesses, so I never seen him work for anybody else. But so he had his home office. Once he bought me that program, I took over the home office. I set up my mixer and whatever because he had a bunch of stuff. So I had the mic, I had the mixer, I hooked it all up to the computer. I had my beat making program. Me and my best friend at the time is because my government name is Chris, and
Right.
his name is Chris too. And those times crisscross was popping. I was 11 years old. I'll never forget it. Me and my best friend were both named Chris, and we're 11, and we're watching these two friends who are both named Chris, who are 11, who are selling millions of records. And I looked at my friend and said, bro, this could be us. And it was just, ever since then, it's just been like this. I've never had any idea to do anything else in my head. You know what I mean? It was this or nothing from
That's
there.
amazing. We just got possibly one of the most amazing comments we've ever gotten on my Twitch, okay? And I have to say, because of all the context of who you are, BC Music 12 goes, I never would have imagined Merker sounded like this, bro. This is going to change the way I read his replies in my head. And I think that is the best comment I've gotten on the channel because, like I said, your fucking shit is so hot.
I wonder what that means. Do they think I was more of an asshole, or I don't I don't know. I wonder.
I don't know. But it's like at the same time, when I first heard your voice, I'm like, that's what Merker said. Because you don't know, right? Like, you never know what people sound like. So, what ends up happening on Facebook a lot is you make up voices and
For
tones.
sure.
You create like a character, especially like, yo, like I feel like I got to know you this year, and this might be our first real like conversation, like I said before. So, like, you end up with this like imagination of what a voice is, and then you hear it in real life, and it just almost shatters your illusion. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's what he sounds like. But then that's what you're going to hear all the other times. Not that it's bad. It's
No,
just
no, no.
it
Yeah,
cracked me up,
I
man.
think it's funny when I hear people's perception of myself or
Mm.
whatever. It's always funny. So I let people perceive me how they want. That's not.
So this is from Brandon, BC. He said, and it's like he knows your music voice, but not your actual voice. So it's like, yeah, I can
Shout
hear
out
that.
Brandon. Yeah. Shout out Brandon. What are you saying, man?
It's cool, man. You got people coming here. They want to hear what you have to say. This is fucking exciting, man. Like, I'm excited. I'm sincerely excited. Probably too much show. It's also later than normal for me, so I might be a little tired, Holden. You're gonna get some goofy shit as it goes on.
There you go. That's how I like it.
So yeah, I guess you guys get started. Is this still in elementary school or is this in high school yet?
It's still elementary school. This is like grade 6.
Love it.
And that's when it all really started. So I have my home little studio. Because if I can backtrack a bit to
Absolutely.
the influences, when I said, the Peter Paul Mary, the Simon Garfunkel, all that, I used to also watch my mother sing a cappella canons in the living room on a little 4-track tape recorder. So that was definitely an influence for me. That's why, like, the instinct to say, okay, I could record myself or whatever, I didn't have to like invent it. I was already seeing it, she had it. So that was part of my setup, that I did when I made my first studio, when I was 11.
You made your first studio when you're 11. Holy shit, though. That's crazy. So were you recording hip hop at that point, or you really getting into it?
Yeah.
So how are you getting beats?
Well, I was making our own beats with the rock, rap, and roll. We had the rock, rap, and roll.
Right, you do. That's fucking ridiculous, right? So you, do any of these exist, or are they all gone?
They don't actually, but I actually remember my first rhyme ever that I wrote. My first rhyme is because we called the group the Power of Two, because there's 2 of us, so we were the Power 2. So it was like the Power of two, bass and treble. We got them both, but not from the devil. So, like, obviously the most ABC rhyme you could think of. But hey, man, it was fucking 92.
But it's
and,
also like you're that young that the worst rhyme ever is impressive. I don't give a shit,
yeah.
Anybody that accomplishes anything at that age, it's fucking fire, okay? Like,
For sure. And in grade 7, I remember for music class, they were like, okay, and we're gonna have a project, and the project is you're gonna invent a music group, and you're gonna make a CD cover, and you're gonna do a track listing, and this, that. And I was just laughing because I'm like, bro, we have all this already. My project is done. So I literally had to do no work. We already had everything. We had the group name, we had tracks, we had whatever. So it was just like, you guys are talking about stuff I already did,
That's amazing. Yo, I like it when life works out like that. Like, I was just thinking about grade 7 today. So in grade 6, I had to read The Giver and write a report on it. And then we get to grade 7 and we have to read The Giver and write a report on it. So I'm like, yo, anyway, that just reminded me of that. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Y'all are making it fucking litty, bro. That's my new thing. Litty, comma, space, bro. It's not litty bros. It's litty, comma, space, bro. That's how I'm working with it. I really enjoy it. But yeah, thank you all for being here with us. So what comes next in your journey, I guess? At what point do you actually move? Because let's say you're going to make your stuff as a kid. I don't know if anything else super significant happens in that phase, or is it just you move to LA?
Well, so after the home studio, there's that. Then high school hit, because high school, I was still in Vancouver when high school hit. And that's when I was saying back then, it was Rap City on Much Music. It was on Friday. It was 30 minutes. You know what I mean? You literally had 4 or 5 tracks per week that you could take in. So when I hit high school, I said, okay, I'm going to really get into this shit and see what's going on. So I pulled up and I said, let me get my pen and paper, to write down my favorite songs and whatever. And I'll never forget. It was Rap City, and it was Outkast, Southern Playalistic, Funky Cadillac Music.
Yeah.
And it was Dr. Dre, Nothing But a G Thing. And I heard that Nothing But a G Thing, and I was like, yes, this is the sound right here. And I was just hooked, and there was no turning back. So from there, I would start rapping and writing raps and just starting, or I would get instrumentals and just like try to rap the original song on top of it. My dad got me turntables out of the back of the Source magazine. For the people that are from the Source magazine days, there used to be that in the back. There was, I can't remember what the store was called, but it was a record store in New York, and they had the whole kit, the 2 techniques and the mixer, and I got, a bunch of records, and I had that, so I had that set up in my room. So I used to just try to spit spit the original raps on top of it, or spit the original song on top of just the instrumental, and that's when, that was a development basically from there.
You know what I like about that is because I do hip hop karaoke, and that shit's fire. And what you just did is what hip hop karaoke is, but you were doing that as like a youth to get like into it, and I think that's fucking cool, dude. I'm all about that shit. And yo, here's the thing about it. What y'all may not know is it's a really interesting way to learn flows. to actually go out there and emulate others. It's not necessarily that you're copying it, but at the end of the day, everything you do is the summation of all of the different influences and shit that you're gonna hear. But it actually go out there and try and do these different flows forces you out of your comfort zone. So I love that already as a young guy, you're fucking doing shit like that. Because one of the things that we were commenting on earlier when we were playing your music was your versatility. Because we went through everything that we could find. Your YouTube channel had some gems on it from back in the day. We saw a little beardless, clean up old Merker back in the day. But yeah, no. So it's interesting that you're that into a wide variety of things so young. Like, what was it? Were you like really open to all kinds of hip hop at that point, or were you just kind of locked into certain sounds?
Well, I mean, those times, like I said, with Source Magazine days, your exposure to hip hop media in Vancouver in the early '90s, it's literally the Source Magazine, the rap pages. So once a month, you're in that, and then you have Rap City once a week,
All right,
where you hear.
let's just stop that and go and pretend that there are people here like myself who didn't really grow up with the Source. Like, I know a few things about it from like, YouTubes and whatnot, but walk us through like what it really meant to you and just talk about like that, like how it influenced you.
The Source Magazine was known as the hip hop Bible. So essentially, that's where everything went down. Like I said, because without internet, magazine was the main source of media for promotion. If you had an album coming out, you had to have a full page spread in the Source to let people know coming soon. There's artists that had coming soon in there for years and albums never dropped, but it was there. And then when you open the Source, the reason why you can't wait for the Source to come out is so that you can open it and go to I can't remember what it was called now, because it's heavy rotation. It was like the good albums, and then there was like 5 albums that were like, these are the albums that you have to have. So it was literally run out to get it as soon as it comes. I mean, in Vancouver, those times it's tough to buy certain hip hop CDs and whatever. So we would drive down to Bellingham to Washington, not too far. That's where people go do their shopping, like how people do their shopping in Plattsburgh here from Montreal. You go down to New York to do your shopping. There was Bellingham. That was like the first city when you drive into Washington. So you used to drive down there, and it was like mind blowing because you could get everything there. They just had everything. So I would go down there. I would cop the recently released hot stuff and the heavy rotation. I essentially had every CD every month, because if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't know what you're supposed to buy. They literally told you this is what's hot, and you want to see the mics. Did you have the 5 mics? Did you have the 4 mics? The 3.5? And that was what everything was based off of. It was the hip hop Bible before Benzino took it over and turned it into whatever he turned it into.
Fair enough, man. But even that point, like, even if other people knew about that, we get to reminisce. I mean, I knew about some of these things, but I never really think about the power of how old stuff was marketed through that funnel, right? Because what you said there, and this is a big knowledge nugget, at least I took it like that because I learned something new. So I'm gonna fucking throw up some knowledge nuggets. It is what it is. But basically, it's how the power of media is used to influence taste. And then we look at the desegregated media world of today, and taste is a lot harder to mandate and fucking dictate. So I just think it's so interesting that you brought that point up, because it kind of ties into a bigger piece of the old versus the new. So that's fucking cool, man. So
to loop back around a bit to your question, because you mentioned the styles that I was like kind of interested in rap wise. So like back then it was whatever the Source told you was hot basically, but there they had East Coast, West Coast. I have to say that my ear was more drawn to the West Coast sound, but overall those CDs, whatever CD, wherever it was from, New York or Chicago, LA, whatever, for me to track because back then there was a recipe. You had your club banger, you had your this, what I mean? You had to have every single type of song on your album or whatever. And every CD always had that heartfelt track where the rapper is not being, braggadocious. He's just giving you that real, he's telling you his story, or he's, a little vulnerable or whatnot. That was always my favorite track on every album. So it would just be skip, skip, skip. And you get to that, you hear that little piano piece, you're like, oh, and then you go and he's giving you that real talk, and I could always feel and connect with that. So that would be, if there was a sound or whatever, it was that real heartfelt shit, that I always drop to.
That's actually really awesome. I never really see, because again, for me, a lot of my music consumption starts with YouTube. Like,
Mm.
yes, no, that's not fully true. I was buying CDs for a while, but YouTube was around when I was buying CDs. So, like, I could go to YouTube and then go cop the CDs, right? So, yes, I would walk into the, like, music world and fucking look at what was on sale and shit. But, nah, I never really had to go through that whole, like, process of, like, you know, looking for what's hot, buying an album, not necessarily knowing what's on it, looking to see what the tracks are, knowing you're, like, that's a crazy, like, different reality that you don't really get to hear a lot about these days.
Yeah, it was literally like the source told me this was hot, so I went and bought it, and then it was discovery. You know, you sit down. This is the booklet time, so you get to see where it was recorded. You get to see the thank yous. Cool Man Logan was talking about that. You know, the shout outs in the booklet. If you're lucky, there's lyrics, so you get to follow along with the lyrics and all that. So that was always like, it was an experience. Taking in an album was really an experience. You know, that I don't think is really there anymore.
It
I
is
think in
not.
that regards, you know.
Nah, because you mean even like the other day when we did the Method Man and Red Man Blackout album, I opened up the thing for the first time and expanded it, and it turned into a mini poster you could put up on your wall. And I'm like, I forgot that that was even a thing that people did. I used to hang
That was,
those shits up on my wall and everything, man.
yeah, for sure. That was so dope when you got that. Is those bonus things that you're not expecting. You're like, fire.
That's dope, man. So I guess high school's not kicking in. You're spinning. You're rapping.
Yeah, exactly. It's all that, and then that's when I started, because my brother went to university down in California,
Mm.
and so I started visiting him down there when I was 13. My mother passed, and so I kind of started. My father kind of started sending me down there more. So it was a bit of back and forth, you know, between Vancouver and California, until eventually my father passed at 15, and then I moved to go live with my brother in California, and then it was like a whole new world, you know, world two, as Cool Man Logan would call it, life one, and then life two, and then I got down to California, and it was like, because from Vancouver, you're like, you're a spectator, you know, you're watching it from afar. Even the commercials that you see on TV, you know, it's for restaurants that we don't have up here. The same thing, you know, the Source magazine drops its albums that you can't buy up here. So you're really like from the outside looking in. And then when I moved to California, it was like getting thrown in the pot, you know, and it was like you get to see it firsthand. And then that's when I would, because I still obviously have my turntables and everything from up there. And then, you know, I met some people, they come over and you throw on the records, and now you're hearing man's freestyle, you know, and it's for real, and it's fire freestyles off the top of the dome. And it's just like, wow, you're really like immersed in it now. It's not, you're no longer a spectator, you know, I was like knee deep in it. And then it's still the same dream from there. You want to be a rapper, you know, it never faltered for me. From I had that moment at 11, I knew that this is it for me, you know.
No, I fully appreciate that. So I guess does that when it really starts? You get to California, you're 15. When does it like really like start?
Okay, so California, because it's still dreaming about it. Um, because then I moved to Montreal, because the idea was always, it was me and my best friend Reese, you know, shout out Reese. He We wanted to start a label, you know, and we wanted to start a label, and the way that we had thought about doing it was by building a studio. You know, we would build a studio and then have the label around that. But you know, certain situations happen. I had to leave, and then but I kept that vision of, okay, I'm gonna build a studio. So when I got to Montreal, I didn't have any money to build a studio. I didn't really have any way of making beats or anything. So I used to go into like Archambault, and I would get my little diskettes, because at that time you used to save instrumentals. If you had like a keyboard that you could make beats on, you would save it on a diskette. So I would go to Archambault, and you could try the stuff. So I would sit there and I would make beats in Archambault and save it on a disc, and then go home. So that was because I couldn't afford, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't afford the equipment or whatever. Then I discovered Steve's Music, and shout out to Steve's Music, because they were it at one point here in Montreal as far as the music world is concerned, and they would rent out equipment. So then I rented a Roland 909 drum machine, brought that in the house, started making beats in the house, started renting keyboards, so building from there. And I would rent it for so many months. Eventually they told me that, hey, you know what? Everything that you spent on the rental, half of it can be applied to the purchase. So I had been renting for so long. Yeah, I was like, bro, okay, so let's go. Let's make it a purchase, you know? So I would turn this rental equipment into purchase equipment. And then I had the team up here, you know, we had Ips, BL, Bud, Abe, Nax. It was all these guys that would come over. And I had it was an 8-track digital recorder at that time. I had my keyboard, so I would make the beats, slap the beat onto the recorder. We had the mic. We used to just drop things. And so moving from Cali to here, when I got here, my brother Flesh, shout out to Flesh, he nicknamed me Cali Boy, you know, because he's Trini. I don't know if you know, but that's the, you know, the ad boy to the end of everything. So it was Cali Boy, you know. So then it became Cali, and then when the mans used to come and spit over the beats, somebody just said Cali Productions, you know, at the beginning, and so that was like the start. I made the Cali Productions logo, and I kind of ran with that, and so my name was Cali.
Can we just pause for a second and talk about how you broke the system before you could break systems? Because you just said you walked into the music store, loaded up their shit, made a beat in the store while they're there and everything.
Yeah,
Put
because
that onto a fucking thing and then moved on with your day to start the process.
yeah.
That's some innovative shit, dude. Like, all things considered, I was not expecting that. But, like, I guess that's, legit. If you can pull off something like that in your life and you can just see opportunity, did you ever get caught?
Nah, not a date. Sure, you could be in there for hours. They would never trouble you. You know, they might come by, ask you if you had questions or anything, but people were in there playing on stuff, trying out stuff or whatever. So, I mean, I never stayed for hours to the point where they would get suspicious, you know, but I would go in there, pull an hour or something, you know, just make some beats, slide out. They never said anything to me still.
That's amazing, dude.
But, you know, if you want to do something, you're going to do it. You're going to find a way. There's always good excuses to not do something. So that those are not hard to find. You know, what you want to find is the loopholes, the cracks where you can break through those excuses and actually get to what it is that you want. You know?
Big facts. Um, so basically, then, when did you come to Montreal? What's like the timeline like?
Montreal, this is 2000. Now I did the Y2K here in Montreal, so it was 2000. I was in Montreal.
Fair enough. All right, so you're in Montreal. You're building up your first studio. You're linking up with people, and you're making that happen. So let's go. What else is happening? Want to tell us a bit about this era? Like, when I say about this era, I mean, like, what's it like to actually try to, like, build something at this time? Like, I know the internet game. How does the internet play into it? Are you guys MySpacing? I don't even know if there. I don't even remember if there was. You know, like.
No. So actual studio built. What I was doing, again, this is in the era of like making the beats at the store because I don't have equipment. I would have my stereo with the 2 tape decks. So back then, you know, in the late 90s, rappers would have often 16 beats of 16 bars of beat at the end of the song, just playing. There's even times where you would literally have the last chorus, the beat would just play for a while, and then the chorus would come back on, and then the song was done. These are like 5.5-minute songs that didn't need to be 5.5-minute songs. And so me, what I would do is
Ride With Me did that by Nelly. Ride With Me does exactly that. It just like fucking keep it just doing a whole extra like minute for no good reason.
and then the chorus comes back on. That was gold for me because me, I said, okay, if I'm gonna be a rapper, I have to be able to hold my own beside the Jay-Z's and the whatever of the world, you know. So me, I would put myself on at the end of the track and try to see if I'm up to par, you know what I mean, with it. And I would even, because I had the 2 tape decks, so I would record one vocal and then I would run the tape back on top of it so that I could like do backs or a second vocal on top of it. And so I would have doubles and triples and whatever just with a.
You walk us through the tape thing. Let's pretend people don't know how this works. I at this point I do know how it works. I've asked this question before. But let's assume that not everybody in the call knows how it works. Walk us through what it's actually like to go through this process so that people can appreciate how easy it is today.
Okay, so you have 2 tape decks, right? So normally you just play one tape deck to listen to music or whatever. And there's only one side that you can record on. But so the thing is, if you play the tape on one side and record on the other and plug in a mic, whatever you're recording on top of it ends up on the second tape. So you take that second tape now, you put it on the play side, and you put a new blank tape on the second side. now you're recording over the instrumental that already has one of your vocals on it, so you're getting to add a second vocal on top of it now, and you're building up the track from there. Obviously the quality of the recording is just going to shits with every, with every re-recording, but you know, when you don't have nothing else to do, this is you know, you do what you can with what you have.
I wonder if that like plays into why ad libs. Some people have like really loud ad libs. Like no, but like if you think about that, right? Like you're not gonna have volume control. Your ad libs are gonna dominate that thing, right? Because it's the last layer and it's gonna be the crispest one. So if
There
you
you
think
go.
about it, if a lot of people, yo, actually, critical shout out you for saying exactly what he used to do. You know, you broke that down. We reminisced. I never. Well,
Yeah,
they
no, sure, I'm
reminisced.
not the only one. Sure.
But yo, it's interesting, right? Because I never knew that. And so when I'm thinking about the construction of songs and like whatever, if that's really like a thing that a lot of people did, it is going to influence people's sound when you get to like, you know, Pro Tools land and whatnot. So that's a
Sure.
fucking cool hidden one I wasn't expecting. Fucking dope, dude.
Yeah, and so that was like before the studio building, you know, because after that we go with the renting the stuff, and we go in. And the thing is, I was definitely in my own way a lot at the beginning, because when I moved to Montreal, it was never to stay in Montreal. I was actually just coming up for the summer, you know. So I was coming up for the summer and then going back. But then I came to Montreal in the summer. My sister was living downtown, like McGill. She was going to McGill, so I was living downtown. And then so you hit Montreal. Imagine, you know, a 17, 18-year-old, you're hitting Montreal, you're there, and it's jazz festival. It's just for laughs. It's African nights. It's, you know, and you're literally like 2 blocks away. So every day you're just pulling up, and it's like, this city is so lit, you know? So I'm like, wow, you know? So at the end of the summer, when it was time for me to go back, my brother's like, you know, you could stay up there if you want, get yourself a place, whatever, and stay up there. And I said, you know what? I think I'm gonna stay up here. It's pretty live up here. And then the cold hit. And then I'm like, so that's the catch. They squeeze in 12 months of living in 2 months in the summer. So of course it's extra lit. And I mean, me, I always love I always love snow. In Vancouver, you get a 1-2 snow a year, you know. So in my town, whenever it snows, it's always exciting, and the snow's there for 2-3 days, and then it melts, you know. So you don't have snow for 4 or 5 months like how you do in Montreal. So it's like a treat, you know. And I remember the first time it snowed, you know, I'm just like, oh my god, it's so nice. And then you're like, yeah, it gets old really fast, you know. So after the first winter, I said, okay, I got to get the fuck out of here. And I've never been able to leave, because honestly, the Montreal life, it's an easy life, you know what I mean? Relatively, if you compare it to other like big cities, Vancouver, Toronto, San Francisco, LA, New York, these are not easy places to live in. In Montreal, I had a place downtown, Sherbrooke and Park, $350 for rent. Like it's unreal, you know what I mean? I had
Yeah,
my
that
two
doesn't
and a half.
exist anymore, sir.
Yeah, no, that doesn't exist anymore. But I'm saying I was in the heart of downtown, you know, a couple $100 for rent. Well, I'm like, yes, I will stay up here and live this amazing life. But after that first winter, I said, okay, I got to get the fuck out of here. And I spent a few years trying to go back to Cali. So I used to go and go back and forth. I used to actually take the Greyhound.
Yo, where are
So
you
I
a
used
citizen at this point? Are you an American citizen or are you a dual
No,
or?
I'm French and Canadian citizen, because
Okay.
French citizenship because I was born there, and I got my Canadian citizenship when I was in Vancouver through my father. So when I went, that was actually one of the issues of me living in California, because once my parents passed, my brother adopted me, and so he was allowed to be in the States because he was a student in the States.
Mm.
I was allowed to be in the States because I was the child of a student who's studying in the States. I was not allowed to work. I had a social security number, but it was not valid for employment printed clearly on the thing. So I couldn't work. You know, I was there, and now you're talking about coming of age. I'm 15, 16, 17. I need money. You know what I mean? So it's like not being able to work or whatever. It was really confining, and obviously sends me into doing stuff I shouldn't be doing, you know? So that happened very quickly. So coming up here, it was just so freeing to be like legal and legit, and I could get a job, and I could, you know what I mean? I could get a place. I could get, you know what I mean? Like I had got mixed up with the police down in California. So to be able to come up here, and it like police didn't know me, and it's like, you know, I relaxed and I said, okay, yeah, I prefer this. But at the same time, I love California, and so I wanted to go back. But once I turned 18, I'm no longer the child of a student that's living in the States. So I don't have a legal status in the States. So the way I used to loop around that is that I didn't fly. I would jump on the Greyhound. It was like 3.5 days on the Greyhound to drive from from Montreal to California. And then because the Greyhound tickets, you don't have to give a date. It's just an open-ended ticket. So you have your departure date, and it's valid for 6 months. You can just jump back on any Greyhound within the next 6 months to come back. So when I hit the border, I would have all my Canadian IDs and everything in my wallet and say, oh, I'm just going down to visit my family in California or whatever. And I'm just going to go for a couple of weeks or whatever. Then once they let me across the border, switch out all my IDs, throw in my California driver's license, my social security number, I had like change my wallet, make it American. And then I would be in the States for a few months, until I run out of money or whatever. And then bus back. And then, so I did that back and forth for a while.
So,
it would never work.
So when the Alchemist song, when you're talking about the Greyhound, it's this, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because when I left California, that's how I left too. I jumped on the Greyhound. I had my Jay-Z CDs and my Discman, and it was jumping. It was 3.5 days, just me and my music, like I say in the track, and made my way to Montreal.
That's amazing. That's like really cool, dude. I love the fact that it's like your actual life, and then you're telling it, and I'm like, yo, that sounds like that song. Like that's fucking cool, man.
That's exactly what it is.
So you're going back and forth, and then
so because I was talking about being in my own way, because often people don't achieve things. They say, oh, the haters or the this or the that, they make all these external excuses, but essentially it's because of you. If you're not doing something, at the end of the day, it's because of you. And so I used to stand in my own way. I always said I don't want to put out music in Canada and be a Canadian rapper and then have to try to make that jump across the border, because now rap music is so global. You have people like Kid Swift and whatever who blew up with rap music in Australia, and you know what I mean? Like there's just it's boundless. But back then, hip hop was an American thing. You know what I mean? Like obviously it was budding across the world, but essentially it was in America. And if you wanted to be a successful artist, you had to be successful in America. And I just didn't want to make that jump. I didn't want to have to be that Canadian rapper that's trying to cross the border and make it in the States. So I said, I'm not releasing music up here. I'm going to wait till I go back to Cali and I'm going to release my music there. So I was making music here and whatever. And I mean, little did I know I'm building my sound. And at the time I wasn't ready to release anyway. So it was played in my favor, guys, in the long run. But essentially I was just then in my own way saying, no, I'm not doing it here. I'm not doing it here. So I'd have my brethrens and we're making music and whatever. But me in my head is, I'm not doing it here regardless. So this is all just practice, whatever. And then what happened when I was 23, maybe. When I was 23, I went to Costa Rica for 3 months, and I lived out in Costa Rica for 3 months. And being there,
why? That's just like such a segue.
It was I had somebody that was starting like a gambling business out there.
Okay.
Like, because you could do because online gambling wasn't legal back then, and so people would have offices in Costa Rica or in Bahamas or whatever to go around the legality of it or whatever. And he asked me to go down there and help him get that set up and whatever. So I was down there, not in the resort or whatever, in the city, really for 3 months, 3-4 months, something like that. I was out there, and then being out there is what made me realize that, okay, no, in Costa Rica, I really couldn't release music. You know what I mean? I thought Canada is not the place to release music, but then going to Costa Rica, I realized, okay, no, this is a situation where I really wouldn't be able to release music and be successful. So I said, when I get back to Montreal, that's it. It's go time. And that's when I made my Cali Productions logo and put my first CD together. It started with me just going, those times I didn't even have internet at home. I would go to the internet cafe and I had no idea what I was doing, but I would just go and I started writing down, record labels, addresses. I would just search record label addresses and started stockpiling record label addresses to essentially, I guess the idea for me was to send them my demo. You know what I mean? So I started compiling. So being online, you know how rabbit holes go online. So from you start searching up, you know, record labels, whatever, you know, things pop up, whatever. And I ended up coming across Dynamic Producer. It's this company started by Felicia Booker out in New York. And this was a place for producers to come together, and they gave you opportunities to submit music to industry artists. So like now there's probably a bunch of that happening now, but back then this was like mind blowing for me. I was like, what? Okay. So I signed up with them right away and started networking with other producers. And so my very, very first CD at the time, what I did is that I worked with all these producers. I had producers from producing artists from Alabama, from New York, from Chicago, from Atlanta, from, you know, literally everywhere. And I said, okay, let me put all of these people on my tape, and then I'm going to print up a bunch of copies. And then now I have a man in Chicago who is on this CD that's properly put together. And so he's going to be handing it out in Chicago to promote himself. But I'm on that shit too, right? So he's promote, like, we're, you know what I mean? Like, it's a cross promotion thing.
No. You gotta, like, we gotta pause. That's some knowledge nugget shit. That's what it is. I'm not even gonna fucking lie. Cause yo, one of the interesting things that people need to learn a lot about is getting the fuck out of your city. So believe it or not, behind that suit was an effort in my end to break out of Montreal. At the time, I was like, yo, Montreal doesn't like me. To be fair, I wasn't repping Montreal, so I didn't deserve any other like. Fair enough. I was a bad old Montreal artist, whatever. Now I'm trying to be a better man about it. But behind that suit was an opportunity to start talking to people all over the world. I actually got to talk to a guy for a while who was like, okay, dude, in LA, it's actually like this. And I'm like, oh, tell me more, dude. Tell me more about life in LA. So it was like I got kind of out of a bubble. So like, but part of that allows me to now kind of have little people that I'm making friends with across. Like I got a plug in Kansas City now. I got some people in New York. So I'm starting to get plugs in different places. I mean, and so when I hear you describe that, it gives me, okay, first of all, what did you actually do? You thought about how to get as much reach as possible based on what you currently had. So in my case, I'm like, yo, I got to interview people not in Montreal, which is facts. I'm already doing that. So in that regard, it's the same kind of thinking. So I love the fact that already off the jump, you're able to look into it. And here's the thing. Any of us can do this now. Like I made a whole project with a dude in Alabama. Right? Like he did all the beats, I did all the fucking vocals, right? So like you can actually just reach out and anybody there. So in this day and age, it's like 10 fucking times easier to replicate what you did. And if everyone does what you did, instead of maybe trying to like stick in the thing of where like, you know, the common ways, the yesteryear days, man, just by jumping out and going, yo, let's make an international project. Boom. Let's find a rapper in every country. I'm just fucking throwing ideas out. But yo, you just dropped that shit. That's what you actually did. And we can all learn from that shit. That's a big time knowledge nugget to me.
I'm gonna grab it, slip it. I have it right here.
Yo, amazing.
This was the first CD, so I put my logo on the front. You know, the Cali Productions, and this was a full jewel case. You know, insert. The idea was that it's like a jewel box. You know, so the CD is a diamond, and and I'm talking about insert, open up, flip. You have all the producer credits and everything. This is when people are doing the $5 mixtapes, you know, with the one paper insert and the Sharpie, the Sharpie on the CD. Which I don't hate on nobody for that, because get it how you get it, you know. But I said I gotta make this shit stand out, so I did the full production on it, like the manufacturing. I bought the empty cases. I got the stuff printed, and we would sit in my living room and package these things and put the CDs together. And I got that influence from my father, you know, because like I told you, he was self-employed. So we used to package his products in the living room when I was a kid. So for me, it was just natural. I'm like, I'm not going to pay a distributor to put all these things together. I'm going to buy the empty jewel cases. I had boxes and boxes of empty jewel cases, literally putting the CDs together, slapping the insert in it, and dealing with that. It was Empire Graphics downtown that helped me with the printing and the putting everything together.
Yeah, that's insanity in a great way. Like the fact is, I guess a consistent theme in your life that I'm seeing is the desire and willingness to endure. So you know what I'm motivated by? This year, 2021, I want to do the hardest shit I can do. Just the hardest shit possible, right? Not necessarily like on purpose, but like you want to do things that are kind of hard. because other people can't replicate hard things in the same
Facts.
way. So within yourself, it's like you did a lot of things that are impossible to a lot of people, but only because you did the hard thing. The hard thing is to do it yourself. The easy thing is to actually hand over $1,000 to get 500 disc bags. Yo, shit's pricey as fuck still to this day, is what I'm saying. Um, but like the fact that you're because no, I don't really like Tom McDonald, but part of the reason he's fucking famous is he did exactly what you're doing, and he hand signs every album and he ships it out himself. And it adds that personal edge when people know you put that extra element in, right? Like it's kind of like that idea of love as an ingredient in cooking. There was love that you had to have done to be willing to sit there and go through that.
Oh, for sure, me. It was my heart and soul is in everything I do musically. I can't not do it that way. It's the only way I know stuff.
That's so cool, dude.
And so this one, I printed up 5,000 copies of this, and honestly, I just gave them out. I would stand outside in front of the dome. This is dome times for those Montreal, the old heads.
Fuck is a
Like
dome?
Joel Santana would come up, and so me, I would go in, and so I was always on some different shit. People are going because they want to see Joel Santana. No, me, I want to go early. I want to see the opening acts because I want to see what's popping in the city. So I would go early, catch the opening acts, and then when the star goes on the stage, me, I leave and I go to the car and I get my CDs so I can stand out front so that when he's done and people start storming out, I'm there handing out CDs.
Bro.
So I'm handing full Jewel K CDs just for free, like if they're flyers, you know what I mean? Like literally, you want a CD? You want a CD? People are like, oh yeah, okay, boom, boom, boom.
We gotta pause for a second here. Y'all gotta understand, Merker's name is fucking big in this city right now. When I say big, I mean almost everybody I've interviewed in this city knows who you are. Not the youth, okay? The kids are different. It's a different world for them. They have their own ecosystem. But let's say above a certain age, the whole city bigs you up. When I say that, I say like I'm sure whatever relationships may exist that are negative, but I encounter an overwhelmingly positive Merker Miyagi love in my life. And I think part of it stems from these kinds of taxes. So believe it or not, freemium is the big model in software now. So everything is freemium. What that means is a lot of shit is free, but the really crucial shit costs money. But even Pro Tools, right? 16 tracks free, basic shit, whatever. Everything's free now. Nothing really costs money like that. But what you were doing was adopting what would become future marketing practices way back in the day. Because here's the thing, ain't nobody gonna be fucking buying these albums if you're trying to charge the $10 or the $5. But you took an L on the finances to put your name out there and spread the word. Cause yo, these motherfuckers out here is talking about how they love this shit. Like I don't know if you're like noticing that. I don't know if you see the chat. But their motherfuckers in there are literally going on like, yo, I'll bump that shit and maybe want to get the next one. The fact is, you gave that shit out for free. And to this day, people are talking about it because your tactic was brilliant.
Listen, 5,000 CDs. That's what let me know that in the city, it's not going to take much. Because these 5,000 CDs, I didn't even give them all out here. I went to Atlanta. I gave out a bunch there. I sent some out to all the people that were on the projects and whatnot. Sent some to my sister in Europe, and but essentially, so like maybe I don't know 3,000 or 4,000 copies in Montreal, and like I said, this is 2003, 2004, somewhere around there, and to this day, like you said, because I still have my Big Cali Productions like banner or whatever that I have in the studio, and people will walk in years, 10 years later, 12 years later, and then as soon as they walk in, they see it and they're like, oh, that's you. And that's why I know, like, I'm like, bro, from a CD I put out over 10 years ago. So, like, just the brand recognition, that was the whole idea with putting the big logo in the front because it was to get that brand recognition, So,
that's what we call legend, right? That's just how I see it. Look, man, what we got to understand is it's a Montreal thing. You did that. You made that happen. You have people talking about it to this day. I don't know. That sounds big to me. That sounds like more than I've done. So I'm fucking blown away by that.
Actually, one of the best compliments I got with this CD was the BL, which I consider like the A&R of the label, because if he tells me a song is fire, I know it's really fire. So if I'm not sure about a song, it's him that I'll bring it to. So I call him the A&R of the label. And he told me that his sister brings CDs into the bathroom while she's showering, to bump. and he sees the CDs rotate, you know, so like they're constantly changing, and how when this one hit the rotation, it stayed much longer than most albums. So I was like, yeah, that was like a certification for me, you know what I mean? Like a big validation, so to speak.
No, I realize what you're saying because I never thought about shower music. This is big. Future people
Shower
are getting
music.
asked about shower music.
I used to drag my speaker into the shower and bump Tupac, All Eyes on Me, trading war stories, bumping in the shower. That's
I like a lot of the auto tune shit in the shower. I like to like sing. My girl, it took years. It was torture for her for a very 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 long time because it was awful for a long time. But I did it for years, and now it's not that awful. It's still kind of bad,
yeah,
but
I'm sure you sing 100 times better than when you started, for sure.
big facts. But yo, I love the acoustics in the bathroom. I don't care what it is, man. Sometimes you just gotta get in the shower, and you just gotta like. It's not even about the shower anymore. It's just about being in the vibe because the hot water feels nice and everything. Anyway, I'm not trying to go too far with that.
Free reverb and delay, man. What do you mean? You don't need no plugins. It's
fucking nice.
Installed into the room. Yeah, man. So yeah, no, that was for sure. This was the beginning. You know what I mean? And actually, before this, actually, what made me say, okay, I have to put it together and release it. I have to shout out Don Smooth. Voice of the City, you know, K103. He was like one of the only ones bumping music, you know, bumping local music. He used to have the battle of the tracks, so he would have two tracks go up against each other. And one of my friends brought this song because I had taken a Akon song and like a album, a filler track, but I really felt it on it. So it wasn't
That's
obviously, it wasn't locked up.
Is that the one that's on your YouTube?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I heard that today.
So to this day, people are like, "Yo, you have a track with Akon?" And I'm like, I just let them think whatever they want.
My exact commentary when that song came on. Remember the days when people do that? Do people still do this? That was my thoughts.
You know.
But
and I never pretended like it was, but I mean,
it's clear as fucking day that you just kind of rapped on it and shit. Right?
Well, because I don't know if you notice, I do like a back and forth with him. You know, I have him like finishing my lines on certain points or whatever. So I really cut it up to try to make it seem like we did a joint.
Notice now.
Yeah, and so, well, anyways, that was
that's cool that you explained it.
Yeah, I took that. Well, I didn't take that track. A friend took that track down to the radio and gave it to Don Smooth, and Don Smooth was like, "Okay, thanks, I'll check it out." And they're like, "No, listen to it now." And so Don Smooth, okay, he listened to it and he's like, "Yo, I'm feeling this. I'm putting it on the Battle of the New Tracks that night." And so at those times, Battle of the New Tracks, so it's two local tracks, right? So what you have is basically, you know, your local, your street team, you know, your local fan base, which is, you know, your cousin, your uncle, whoever you can call to say, "Yo, call the radio station and vote for my track. Call the radio station and vote for my track." You know, so whoever you can round up to call the radio station and vote for your track. And I was going up against a track that had already won like 3-4 weeks in a row. So it was obviously these people are on it. They have their people calling and everything. Me, I got a phone call and said, "Yo, turn on the radio." I turn on the radio and my song is playing. I was like mind blown. And it was you have like 20 minutes to call and vote. So I didn't have time to call people and tell them to vote and whatever. So it was just whatever happened naturally. And I beat that track that night. I won the Battle of the New Tracks that night without any like groundwork basically on my end against a track that were people that were doing groundwork, I'm assuming, because it was another local track and they were on their, you know, multiple weeks win streak or whatnot. So I won that day. And then I won 10 weeks in a row and I got retired in the Hall of Fame of the Battle of the New Tracks. When you win 10 weeks in a row, you go to the Hall of Fame and you get an interview with Don Smooth and whatnot. So those times, like I called in, I did the interview with Don Smooth by the phone. And so I'm on the line and we're talking and whatnot. And so he messes with my music. And so and at that time, there is no YouTube. YouTube is probably just starting, you know, but it's not the way that it is now. So if you want to release music, you have to put it on a CD and hit the streets. That was the way that you got it to the people. So once that track blew up on the radio, I said, okay, I have to put it on a project and put it out. And that's when the dynamic producer and all that stuff played into it. And I put it together. And actually, funny story, because there was summer, what was it called? Summer Sizzle with Ciara up at the beach club. So I remember, no, anyways, this is like,
No, I
again,
mean I'm
2000.
listening. I'm just like, yeah, I'm like in high school. We're counting how many goes are in fucking go shorty. How many goes? That's what the highlight of my life was then. You know.
Well, for me, I'm making my way. There was a bus down because this is at beach club or whatever. So they had like this bus to take you there from downtown Montreal to take you up there. I didn't know anything though. I just pulled up downtown and all the buses had already left. But so I'm there with my duffel bag full of CDs. I got T-shirts and I'm there at St. Catherine. I'm like, bro, where's this bus? What's happening? Then these other people pull up and they're like, yo, you're looking for the bus too? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. We're trying to go to Summer Sizzle and whatnot. I got these CDs. I gave the girl the CD and she goes, oh, you're Cali? I heard your track on the radio. Whatever. And I'm like, yo, this is what like blew my mind. You know what I mean? Like, so I go and we end up actually splitting a cab with these people to go all the way up to Beach Club because there's no more buses or anything. So it's me and my brethren Ips. We roll up there, and up there, Don Smooth is up there. He's actually the MC for the event. So he's there. So this was my first time seeing Don Smooth face to face. And I'll never forget, I hail him up. I say, hey, what's up? Give him a daps, lean in. And when I lean in, I tell him, yo, I'm Cali. And he goes, you're Cali. Oh, shit, And so that was like his first time seeing me. That whole day is like, feels like a dream, When I look back at it, it was like, then after I meet Don Smooth and he's bigging me up, and then my brethren comes. He's like, yo, this girl wanted to meet you. She didn't believe that you were here. She said, I told her I could introduce you to him. And she's like, oh yeah, she wants to meet him. So then, brought her up to me and met her, gave her a T-shirt, whatever, So like that whole day was just like unreal. In my head, it's just one of those things. It's just like unreal, That's it.
Side note, shout out Tech Luciano and Natasha for having parent conversations in the chat right now. Shout out that.
Grown people things.
I love it, dude. That's amazing. Dude, I am like blowing a fucking way right now if I'm like processing because I'm in high school, right? So I don't even know what a beach club is. I don't even know what a beach club is I've never even been. But yo, I'm sitting there going, okay, so he's at Beach Club, popping off, fucking Don Smooth there. And shout out Don Smooth. He's down to do an interview, so he's going to be coming in.
Yeah, for sure. He's a legend. When you talk about legends in the city, he's a legend.
So here's how I know he's a legend. You're about the 10th or 11th person to tell me about him in a very meaningful, like your face lights up kind of way. And that's like, to me, big signs, right? Like that's how you know somebody's a fucking legend. That's why I know you're a legend, because people light up like that when they talk about you.
I appreciate you, man. But this guy for sure, because he was that DJ that had, first of all, he had prime time slot. So he was bumping hip hop music from K103, but it's in Ganawagi, but obviously you can get it in Montreal. And you'll hear stories, people who came up there, they'll tell you about putting up their antenna on their stereo to be able to catch it, because if you're like all the way up in Ville Saint Laurent, you're too far to catch it, or like you play around with it and whatnot. And because this was hip hop being played at prime time, you could be driving in your car at 6 o'clock Monday to Thursday. I guess Friday was bingo night or whatever, but you could be driving in your car at 6:30 and listen to hip hop, and he would play local artists, anybody. You could just send him your tracks, and if he was feeling it, he was bumping it. There was no politics, there was no gatekeeper, he didn't have any like hidden agenda or anything. To me, it was just he was about the scene, and he was a big part of anybody for sure, late 90s, early 2000s, putting out hip hop music in Montreal. If you didn't have Don Smooth bumping your shit, you wasn't doing it. That's it.
That's amazing, man. I'm really happy you said that, because like the more y'all tell me about him, the more I can give him like the proper respect he's due when that day does come.
Oh, for sure. 100%. He deserves the utmost respect always.
And he's telling you straight up, he's not the easiest guy in that era to go Google these days and go find all the good stuff about his significance. But I know it's going to mean a lot to him to hear about the passion that all of you have for him, I should say. But that's crazy. So I'm still sitting there tripping about the fact that you're at Beach Club being a fucking superstar up in Montreal, like popping. Like that's what Justin Bieber and shit goes to go do, and you're doing that. You did that already. That's fucking banging.
Well, for sure. For me, it was just unreal, and that was I was part of handing out the CDs. That was I went down to Atlanta. You know, I handed out CDs down there. I went to New York to play beats, to try to get beats on projects down in New York, and actually going to Atlanta to meet up, because this is all through Dynamic Producer. Shout out to Felicia Booker. So this is all through her network that, like, you know, she had, okay, a A&R listening session in Atlanta. I said, what? Yeah, I jump on the plane, I'm there for 2 days, fly back. You know, I'm gonna hand out some CDs, I'm gonna try to get some beats on a project. And being in Atlanta, where, because in Montreal, people always try to make it seem like, oh, if I was here, I'd be big by now, or, you know, it's because I'm in Montreal and whatever. And I'm really not a big fan of excuses. I think it's just the easy way out, you know? And when I went to Atlanta, I got to meet producers from New York, from Atlanta, from LA, from these big cities that people in Montreal say, oh, if I was there, I would have blown up by now. And the stories that they're telling me are exactly the stories I'm hearing in Montreal. And that's when I'm real
interesting. Wait, when was this though?
This is early 2000s. This is early 2000s, and I'm realizing it's the same shit everywhere. Everybody's trying to get on. Everybody's talking about the haters in the cities, not letting them get on and whatever. And that's what made me realize, yo, all of these things are just excuses. You know what I mean? You either just find a way to do it and to break through. You know, St. Louis, Nelly was in St. Louis. There was no 24-hour hip hop station in St. Louis. You know what I mean? Like people are crying about up here. There was none of that. The man went diamond. You know what I mean? Because he found a recipe that worked. And like, not to go too much into his story, but he was signed to a label. Man. Well, so the Nelly, the inspiring thing about the Nelly story for me is that he was signed to a label, and the label didn't know what to do with them, which is a common thing that happens with artists. You know, the label has it. They think, oh, you know, they signed him for whatever reason.
They wanted him, but not the rest of the Lunatics, and he forced them to take on the Lunatics. Recently, I saw a Nelly story. That's why I'm like remembering it kind of like that. And then when they had the Lunatics, they didn't understand how to market them as a whole, rather than Nelly, who they wanted to have like a particular vision with.
For sure, for sure. But that's a little bit later on, because this is.
Oh, this is even before that.
This is before that. They were signed already to whatever label they're signed to. This is before Country Grammar pops and drops, and so
okay,
I think,
my bad.
Yeah, the whole story goes, I think the A&Rs that had signed him or got him signed, because the record label, it's a revolving door, you know. So you get signed by a guy, or like an A&R brings you to the label, bigs you up to the label. They say, okay, we sign him, give him some advance money, whatever, get to working on a project. By the time it's time for your project to go out, that A&R that found you and believed in you doesn't work for the label anymore.
Oh, shit.
So now you're stuck with a label who just doesn't really know what to do with you. And so they were having a big board meeting.
Can we pause for a second and talk about how an A&R plays a part in a lot of this shit? Because an A&R is a word that's thrown around a lot. What is an A&R?
So an A&R is the person who goes out basically at those times. The A&R will be the person that hits the open mics and the clubs and the undergrounds, and really finds the artists that they feel like deserve to be developed and invested into by the record label. So you're not convincing the CEO to sign you. You're trying to get an A&R to hear your sound and believe that they could do something with it. So the A&Rs are basically like the gatekeepers to the record label.
Okay. So the A&R finds you, and the A&R pitches you, and in a sense, an A&R's job is to seduce you as the artist, and then seduce everybody. So they're seducers.
They're the seducers. There you go. The music
seducers. Okay.
I like that. And but then, like I said, with the revolving door, by the time it's time for your project to drop, the A&R that believed in you is not there anymore, and you're kind of just floating in the wind. And a lot of artists back then, they think like, oh, if you get signed, you made it. But bro, that's just half the battle. You know, the artists that pop, they put in the work at the same time. They don't just depend on the label, because the label doesn't know what they're doing. The label is just a bank that just throws money at this project, that project, and just sees what sticks. And when some sticks, they keep throwing money at it until it doesn't make money anymore and try to find the next thing, you know? So the story.
So a label, honestly, if you want to parallel it, because that is a venture capitalist endeavor, upon which that's all a label is.
They're a bank. They're a bank that do artist loans.
Bruh.
With connections. They're a bank that do artist loans with connections that take money on the back end if it pops off.
So if Oscar Wilde says the essence of perfect writing is brevity, I think you just explained labels in the most simple possible fucking way it'll ever be explained, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if somebody can do that simpler, they deserve fucking hella cash, because that was simple. everybody's gonna know what the fuck that means, dog.
Yeah, that's really what they are. And then they loan you the money up front, and then you got to make it back for them. That's it, you know. And then you guys, when the money's made back, then everybody eats, you know.
It's amazing, man. Like, I'm glad that we're having this chat. Like, I'm glad that we're able to go through these little things like that. So you're basically popping off in New York around, you're moving around, you're trying to move your shit, you're hustling, and this is still the early 2000s.
This is early 2000s, yeah.
You know what? Hold on. Can we just pause again? Something that's actually nifty that I've noticed with the beat makers is y'all were willing to travel in a way that the rappers were less willing to travel. And I'm not saying that it's universal. Some rappers totally did travel, actually. Like a few did. But I noticed that every producer, beat maker guy I've talked to traveled at a certain point to actually go around and try and do some things. So I think that's just a weird thing I'm going to start watching for. But that's fascinating, no?
Yeah, well, it's the producers are the grinders, you know what I mean? The artists are the divas, you know. I'm not I don't want to
Spit your truth, man.
It's a generalization, obviously, but for me, I find that producers are more willing to put in the work, you know, like they to try to do any kind of way. They'll send out beats to people and it encourage them to try to jump on it or whatever. They tend to be more, I find, more like intuitive in that sense, of like trying to find ways to get things popping, you know, like a lot of especially rappers. It became this like way to get rich quick. Like, oh, I don't want to work. I don't want to do this. So I'm going to be a rapper. I'm going to spit some 16s and then I'm going to get big chains and big cars and live the life of a star. Like, bro, no, that's not how it goes. You know what I mean? Like,
I think
into your imagination. Like,
just like on that note, I think one of the posts that you made recently that resonated the most with me and just your thoughts, because that's what I like about your posts is these little nuggets of thoughts that pop off, was the one where basically, to summarize it, is the future of all this shit is not millionaires because it's not possible. It's just not going to happen. And then I realized, but everybody's going to eat because, there's a lot of people that are going to eat now that couldn't eat when there was just a bunch of millionaires because in a weird way, this is a huge benefit. Like, I'm okay clearing $100K a year off of this. That would be the biggest gift in life, dog. Are you fucking kidding me? Off of this? If this is what I get to do and I clear $100K a year, that's more than I make in day job land, dog.
Doctors make, man. You can make doctor money. And actually, you know what, that segue, I'm gonna use that into a story. When I was younger, when I was maybe 14 or 15, my father bought me a book that had every single profession in it, and just so every page was a profession, and it had a synopsis of just what the average salary is, beginning salary, top salary, and the kind of education that you need to have that job. So, and like, 200-300 pages or whatever. So it's like everything you could think of, you know what I mean? From technician to doctor to this to that, whatever, And I'm flipping through this book and first of all, none of the salaries were sufficient to me. The only ones that were in the range that I would consider decent were the doctors and the lawyers, and you're talking about years and years of school and this. And I said, bro, I'm not into that. And so that's when I knew early on that, I'm not doing the 9-to-5 thing. I can't do that. I don't see like a light at the end of that tunnel, for me at least, for something that's going to be like, like worth it for me to invest myself into and to whatever. So I know the music thing, it's a shot in the dark and it's, it's not easy to make it, but for me, I would rather not make it doing something I love than make it doing something I can't stand doing.
But just to like jump off of that, oddly enough, I think the way everything's shifting, what you do is going to be a highly valued commodity, because at the end of the day, it's like the ability to be an entrepreneur creatively is a skill that you clearly have developed. And in the way that things are going, like I think things are moving towards some kind of a subscription-based world where people are going to feel you and they're going to subscribe to you. And that's just everybody and everything. It's going to try, because your software is doing it. Video games are doing it. I mean, I'm doing it here now. Technically, that's what the world is. And there's no reason that you couldn't, in theory, go live on Twitch and just make beats and start getting subscribers today.
Sure. Well, I actually have, I'm not going to put my whole business plan out there, but I have something that's in the works to turn my music production income into monthly income. That's what it is, man. If I can, you know what I mean? Like, people live off of a couple $1,000s a month, you know what I mean? Working 40-hour weeks doing something that they can't stand. So, bro, if I can, and I mean, figure out a way to get that steady stream of income doing something I love. Like you were saying, making 100K a year, bro, doing music. What? I will sign up for that right now. Show me where to sign. That I used to look at making it as selling millions of records, but now to me that's making it.
I'm gonna be real. I hope anybody wants to talk about anything I've created in 10 years, okay? Or 15 years, dude. Anything. I don't know, man. I'm not even that deep, so it's hard for me to say anything has longevity. But like that is my dream, right? Like I'm motivated by having a Wikipedia page worth having. Just not a
Mm,
negative one. I want a positive Wikipedia page. Even if it's like fucking 3 paragraphs, just like Holden did something worth writing about on Wikipedia. That's the
left,
dream, dude.
you left your mark, bro. At the end of the day, to me, pure artists, because I don't want to be bashing people. You know, I'm not the bashing type, and I know I made my slights about rappers that just want to try to get rich quick or whatever. But if we can move away from that, and to me, artists, real artists, essentially what they're trying to do is they're trying to live forever. You know what I mean? Like that's what you want to do. You want to leave your mark, and you want people talking about you 100 years from now. You know what I mean? Like that's. I think every artist at its core, that's where the passion comes from. Where it's like they want to, you know what I mean? They want to live forever.
I love that, and I think it's true. Like I think it's really cool. Like I don't know. Like I like the way you think about it, right? Like look, don't get me wrong. I want to get rich, but I want
For
it to
sure.
be like the right way. I think there's right ways to get rich. Look, Ty Lopez is the wrong way to get rich. He does a lot of manipulative tactics, and it kind of murks people who are feeling vulnerable into giving up money to acquire information that is readily available for free, and he pretends to hold your hand through the process. And to me, like, that's a dark way to go about doing things. Is it wrong or right? I don't know. I believe it's a dark way to approach it because of what I believe, right? um but like, then there's other ways to make money where it's like, yo, people support you for what it is. Like I got one patron, or I've got a few patrons that have just paid me for years now. It's not a lot of money, dude, but like just to know that there's a couple of people that are willing to do it for years opens my fucking eyes to like a whole new world. Like, yo, people can post all their view counts all they want, and everybody's gonna post their view counts. But yo, for somehow or another, 6 people played me more than everybody else in their Spotify. Okay, 5 other people that are not me, 4 other people cutting out Bonnie, played me as their number one thing. Okay, that's still like blew my
Shout out to
mind.
Bonnie,
Even
by the way,
yo,
the
shout out
wife,
Bonnie. She's the
man
best.
behind the man behind the genie, the they say behind every
She's
powerful man, powerful woman. You know,
Yo,
so
she's the best, yo. She's the greatest. Like, I don't even think I'd have anything in my life without her. Well, that's not true. But, like, listen, I was rambunctious, and she would call me on my bullshit in a way that other people would not call me on my bullshit. And then she still loved me after. And that was
mm,
weird, right? Like, that's not a thing that you commonly get in your fucking life. And so it just created a level of trust that, maybe we don't agree on everything for sure, but at least, like, we respect each other enough to, like, be cool and, offer each other respect. And that's just a beautiful thing. But, yo, here's the thing. It means that, like, there's just somebody there that, when you pursue the 80 plus hour weeks, that, like, kind of gets it. But on top of that, she's involved, right? Like, she's a moderator. She's fucking handling copywriting and shit now because she sees the potential. So she jumped on board like a fucking trooper. So she's just fucking amazing. Without her, there's literally nothing at this capacity that we're doing today. Like, there's no way there would have been this many interviews this week without her, as an example. And shout out Chris Crum, who I see there in the chat too. Shout out Chris Crum. Him too. He's very helpful.
listen, honestly, straight up, I know I was shouting out Bonnie, but without my wife, I wouldn't be here today. Honestly, like I mean, most of the story now so far it's still pre-wife time, but the monetization of my music, because at that time I was just investing, and blowing money, blowing money, and I had built my studio, and I was doing my thing, and people would reach out and be like, "Yo, I want to rent out your studio for $20 an hour." I was like, "Bro, I didn't spend thousands of dollars to build a studio to rent it out to you for $20 an hour. If you want to collab on some music together, we can get in the lab and make some music, but I'm not renting it out to you for $20 an hour." And it's my wife who got me my first client. It's my wife who told me, "No, you need to do that," because she got pregnant with our son, and it was like, okay, and not on some, you need to get your shit together and what. No, but it was just, bro, what are you doing? This is what you need to be doing. And I had told people, no, 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 and she had like her cousin's friend was looking for a studio to record at or whatever. Robert, shout out Robert. And I said, okay, let's do it. I said, $20 an hour, boom, let's go. And if it wasn't for that, like, I wouldn't have met all the artists that I met. I wouldn't have like found my way in, because those times, like I said, I was investing as an artist and trying to whatever, but she pointed me in a direction where I was able to make money from doing something that I love. And so shout out to my wife, man, for that.
Yeah, that's real dope. I'm glad you share that. My wife, or not wife yet, we're not really married, but we lived together for so long. It's kind of like, is there a huge difference? I guess there's paperwork. I don't know. I don't fucking care.
That's it. It's just the paperwork. It's
Yeah.
just the paperwork.
She's definitely acting a lot more like a wife as time goes on. I hear what the husbands say. Husbands all say the same shit. So you realize it when it happens to you, and you're like, okay, I guess I'm in that married life now. This is what that is. Oh my gosh, all those stand-up comics of yesteryear are so much funnier today.
Right? You can relate to it now.
She's wonderful though, because she is watching. That's part of what makes her wonderful, right? Because she is watching. That's fucking
I
dope.
see her in the chat and everything. I love it, man. I love seeing that, honestly. It's so dope. So
Yeah,
dope.
she's wonderful. Um, but yeah. Anyway, I got distracted.
I don't even know where we were at. Making money the good way and the bad way.
Yeah. So
That,
yeah, it's just about, to me, there's the good way. It takes a long time, but the way things are going, right? Like, it's not that hard to like figure out a little niche for yourself and go on the internet and find a little way to make a dollar here and there. It's like pretty incredible the number of people I've been able to see flip hustles. Like, I caught them winners of COVID, honestly. So like, I've seen a lot of people start some shit, and then there's other people who it's like, and this is no disrespect, because life is hard, life is complicated. A lot of people had a lot of things happen, so I'm not shitting on anyone, but at a metric level, there are unfortunately some losers of COVID as well that kind of played into it, and a lot of it might be mindset and willingness to adapt deep into the game, right?
100%. For sure. No, but there was L's for sure. It's not to take away from anybody's
Yup.
L's. Or I talked to people who worked at the same company, like a printing company for 30 years. And then it's like, they started when they were 21. They're 51 now. And then they get let go. And like, that's it, bro. You invested 30 years. Like, I'm pretty sure this person's passion was not printing. You
Right.
know what I mean? Or whatever the fuck they were doing there. And they spent 30 years doing that. And then now they're working at the Metro grocery store for minimum wage because of COVID. And those are the things that scare
Yo,
me
break.
to death.
They
You know?
scare me too, dude. So I don't want to go like too far with it, but I look at my parents, and for my whole life, and I don't want to go too deep with it because I like my parents. We're on good terms, but I just knew I didn't want to be that. And I was also like kind of poor and stupid about 10 years ago, right? I wasn't living my smartest life. So I know what it is to literally try and make 12 eggs stretch because you really did blow all your money on a few 3 5s and shit. Okay, so I know what the dumb life is. And then I've seen what the dumb life looks like when you're old. And it's so bad, man. It's so bad when you're old, because when you're young, you get away with it. You're cute and da 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 da. And people are very forgiving of that shit till about 25. And then it stops being cute. That's what people start saying. It stops being cute. So I think about that a lot about my future. And I'm like, yo, I don't think I've locked in being 43 and popping yet. Right. So every day of my life, it feels like there's a gun to my head. And it's like, yo, if you ever go back to that shit, you may as well pull that trigger, because that shit is that bad to me, right? Because I've been there and I don't want to ever be there again. So like, I don't know, man. I really like a lot of the way you think.
Yeah, I started a corporate job a while back. I'm not gonna. There are very strict rules about social media and what you can say and what not. So I never talk about it. I don't mention the company, not because it's something I'm
Yep.
hiding, but it's because I
Yo, I
want
get it.
my
I
page.
signed that
My page is
contract too, my man.
Yeah, yeah. No, my page is about my music. As long as I never mention them, then whatever I say. As soon as I put their name as works at here, nothing I say is just whatever I want to say anymore. It's all like represents the company and this that. So, anyways, but working for there, because I never worked really in my life. I hustled all the time. And then when I started, okay, then when my son was born and everything, and I said, okay, I need to start like straightening things up. I can't just be doing whatever. And I got this job. Every time somebody would come in, they would introduce themselves and they would tell you their their path to where, to the position where they got to in this company. And every single one of them would start it with, oh, so well, I started working here oh God, 8 years ago. Wow, it goes fast. Oh, I started working here 12 years ago.
Oh,
It goes fast. You know, they all say that. And I said, yo, that cannot be me, man. And I also saw somebody retire from said company, and they retired. So they gave their years, right, to this company, and they printed up on a piece of paper their picture and said, thank you, Sophia, or whatever. And it was posted by tape on the lunchroom wall. And I said, bro, this will never be me. Impossible.
I know what that's like, man. I worked at the La Senza distribution center. So I
Mm,
basically threw bras and panties in the bins for 40 hours a week. It was kind of
nice.
nuts. But I met the lifers, these
Yeah.
people who were there for so long. Now, my cousin works for them still to this day. There's about 6 to 12 people left in Montreal across all of this company because I don't know why it is, but the distribution center doesn't exist today. So all those people that did the lifer thing, imagine it's like I sit there and I imagine, but yo, when you're like, I was young, I was like 20. So when you're 20 and motherfuckers in like 40 and God, but you're 20 years and you're like 20 years of the same, the same, dude. This shit is just literally you walk around and it tells you pick up this bra, get 5 units of them, put it in this box, go to that one. But you got to keep your numbers up. So you got to be fast about it. And I'm like, this can't be
Really
it, dog.
fulfilling. Sounds really fulfilling.
It was trash. And then it was just trash. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like a shit job because it was the real benefit was that it was 4 10-hour days. So at 20, that was a fire fucking work week.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but it was still a shit job, and it made me want to go white collar because I didn't really ever want to be in that environment than
Mm,
be in that place forever, right? So I ended up going white collar, and that saved my life.
nice, nice. Yeah, I think what this conversation just makes me think about the Jim Carrey speech that he gave at a university. I'm sure you've probably seen it. It's viral. Most people have seen it. If you haven't seen it, you have to look this up. He tells a story about his father who worked for an insurance company for many, 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 many years, only to get laid off at the end of it and have no job and not know how to take care of his family. And he
Mm.
told Jim Carrey that you can fail at anything. You could fail at anything. So why not fail at something that you love? Or when I'm paraphrasing, that might not be the
Yeah,
exact
I know what
words,
you're talking about.
but you can fail at anything. So it's like, why do something that you hate? Because then you could end up failing at that. At least if you do something you love, it's something. You know what I mean? I think about my kids and leaving a, do I want to be successful to be that, like, that influence, or that, someone they look up to in life to say, oh, like my daddy made it, so I can make it too. For sure, of course. But even if I don't make it, if they can look at me as that guy who never gave up and kept trying to do what he loves to do until my last breath, that to me, that's a success in its own. You know what I mean? Because I'm
Yo, but
telling them,
even
yo,
like
fuck the outcome, just do what you love, like.
I think about it like, yo, one day I'm hoping to have kids. Like I don't know. It is what it is. You don't really have 1,000% control of that. It is what it is.
Sure.
But let's say it goes down. It's like I can sit there and be like, "Yo, we did this. It doesn't matter if I made that money or whatever. This is how I chose to spend my time, and I'm not gonna lie, this is a fucking fun way to spend time, and it's just really like a cool experience. Just seeing so many people from like Montreal popping into that chat and just fucking enjoying the vibe and shit. It just inspires me, and it's like, yo, I didn't actually think I would get to 14 viewers at one time, and this is actually low. It dropped from 19 from what I'm seeing. I don't know what the real number is, but like that's crazy that it hit that many people like are actually tuning in just to check this shit, right? And it's like fucking like wow. Like wow, this is a real thing that's actually like a thing. And who knows if it goes somewhere big. But even right now, I could be bored, but I'm not. And that's the best part of this, right? So I can be like, yo, kids, I'm going to teach you how to not be bored. Because I don't know what bored is. I don't know what that feels like anymore.
Yo, but I love what you're doing, man, because I watch, obviously, and I see, like, your genuine desire to learn. First of all, I love that
I'm
shit.
an
I
addict.
love how, people, we're in an age of pretending, you know what I mean? Like, people will hear shit, not understand shit, and not along with it because they don't want to be that one that doesn't know. And like I've seen you time and time again say, "Skirt, stop that." I don't know what that is. Explain to me what that is. And that is fucking dope to me, because that's just, because what's the point of skating along and pretending? You know what I mean? Like
So
when
I'll tell
there's,
you what happened. I'll tell you why. So I'm a young guy, and I was a bad boyfriend. And this girl was awesome, and she did a lot of cool stuff. Bless her heart. She just had a kid and shit, so she's killing it. She's like popping in life. Um, but she asked me to read this book one time to help her out, you know, like hold her down because she was busy. And honestly, in hindsight, she was legitimately busy, and I was a shitty boyfriend. So I skimmed this book, and I didn't actually Google what one word meant, and that word was used like 1,000 times in this book. So I had no idea what the fuck the book was about. And boy, did she lay into me. But it really like left this like impression. Like then she's like, fine, I'll have to do it myself then. And you know, I've had a lot of fine, I'll have to do it myself moments since then, right? Like, but the truth is that moment was so imprinted into my memory. I'm like, yo, not understanding things is bad. And as I got older, like, yo, I had to acknowledge I'm fucking terrible with people. So like, okay, there's a lot of things I don't understand. And in high school, the biggest thing I was told I was bad at was pretending I knew things. I always fronted and shit. So I used to be like a fronting little hater guy. Like nobody liked me with legitimate reason type shit. And I get it now. But like a lot of it is just miscommunication. But then I thought about arguments with all of my past girlfriends prior to this one. This one was this experiment actually. I figured I'm going to work on alignment. I'm going to work on aligning language because it was a lot of like the last relationship I realized there was a lot of miscommunications that led to arguments, and in hindsight it was just always miscommunication. So at this one we spent a lot of time aligning ideas, and now it's like what, 6 years, so I guess it works. And that's kind of what it is. So like especially with these New York guys, these, you know what I mean, I'm like, no dude, I didn't fucking grow up in Harlem. I've never even been to New York City. How the fuck am I supposed to know what you mean? How the fuck? I'm a white dude from Montreal in my early 30s who's only now really embracing hip hop culture the last couple of years. I have no idea what the fuck you mean. Like, I didn't even know about the ad libs thing on the tape until today. Like, how am I supposed to know what y'all fucking mean? You know, like, 'cause it's not even Googleable. Google that shit. When you try to Google shit like what is a whatever, dog, it's fucking awful. It's forums of bullshit for days, okay? People think like, because, yo, I do the reviews, people would be like, Google stuff. And then I started saying to people, because, yo, when you respond to YouTube comments for years, you start to think different. You start to protect yourself more because you're just tired of the same bullshit fucking comments, right? So you start saying things like, listen, I've tried to Google this. It's not Googleable. And then all of a sudden people start explaining shit in great detail. And you're like, oh, fuck, eh? And then all of a sudden more and more people get like, yo, I think, so I did this review for Big Ghost Ltd and Conway the Machine's first project. And Big Ghost Ltd hit me up to clarify some shit after the review.
oh shit.
Yeah, and then I DM'd him after Liddy Bros told me he was fucking cool. I had no idea who he was, dude. Zero. And then Liddy Bros, so I hit him up and said, dude, you made me look cool. And then he's like, nah, bro, you just do you. And I'm like, yo, this is so fucking weird what my life is. But like, not to like gloat about it. It's just, I got lost in thought there.
Yo, big yourself up, man. That's what I'm talking about. It because me, I'm trying to give you some shine because, like I said, I'm a fan of yours. I watch your thing, and what I see is because there's this genuine desire to, one, learn, to give people a platform to get their story out. And what I love about it is that within that context, inadvertently, with every interview, because it's so natural in this conversation, you slip in your story, and it's not like, oh, okay, stop talking, let me tell you my side of the story. You know what I mean? It's not done like that at all. It's just these little, oh yeah, because when I was in high school I did that, and you sneak it in. So me, I'm watching these interviews and I'm learning about you every time, and I know it's inadvertent. I don't think like you sat there and said, oh, let me interview people, and then while interviewing them I'm gonna get my story out or whatever, because it's just
no, actually, no, I'm gonna have to say there was part of that. It was strategic. So shout out Pre-Chankobia. I interviewed Pre-Chankobia, and this is actually how this all really started for me, like to go like next level, how it shifted at least. So I'd started the interview thing because I'd done a couple of interviews. So K Reno let me do an interview with him. K Reno is a Houston underground rapper. He's a fucking legend in that community. If you know who he is, it's a fucking big deal. If you don't, It is what it is. Google them. Anyway, so then I'm like, wow, interviews is a thing we can do. And then this other guy, Beast, had reached out, and then whatever. And then I interviewed a random guy, but I didn't really do a lot with it. And then I'm like, you know, interviews are easy. So I went out to Toronto, and I'm like, let's link up with Meyer Clarity. Let's do a fucking interview with him. So I did, and he did it. It was shit. Well, not to say it was shit, Meyer. It was a good interview on your end. I was shit because I was stoned out of my mind, and I was full. I don't know if you've ever been really full and really stoned and sweaty and just not in the right vibe for like a fucking anything. That's what was really happening for me. So it was a shit interview on my end. Anyway, it was cool though because we were in Toronto and it was a good time. And then I started doing more of them, people coming through and whatever. But then I get to Preach, and Preach talked at me for about 2 hours, and I got about 5 words in on All Reality, and he gave me history lessons. But then Preach was watching a couple of them, and he's like, dude, you're dealing with rappers. So, like, make sure that you fucking talk, or it's not your show, right? But at the same time, I'm watching Joe Budden, I'm watching Joe Rogan, I'm watching a little bit of Drink Champs and shit, yo, because I do the market research. It's not like any of these things are random, right? So I'll be real with everyone because I'm not going to fucking hide my tactics. I hit you with the tangents the way I do and make sure we keep going random because in a way it's like what alcohol's going to do to your brain, I find, and it lubes you up so that by about the 2 hour mark of the interview, if it's still running that long, that's when the real shit starts almost. Look at Drink Chaps. It's about 2 hours in when everybody's smashed that the real shit starts. But part of it too is you learn about Nore. You learn about Joe Budden. You learn about these people. And the truth is nobody really was giving me all that much love and attention before this. So it's not even that I want to hijack the show and make it there. But like if we're not having a conversation where at least, so I time it too. Like I'm watching the clock and I know, okay, the first hour is all about Merker. And then after that, I start to slowly even it out to like more of a conversation point so that we get into like anyway. So to me, it's all like, it has to be like thought about like that. Like if you're not trying to make a bigger point with it, then this is like a big calling card, right? Like how am I going to get my name out if I'm not like part of it, you know? Like
genius. It's genius, honestly. And it's natural the way you do it. It's smooth. That's why like I watch you and I feel like sometimes it's, you know, like it's like you're sparring with people conversationally and some people don't hold up their end, you know what I mean? And you kind of outshine them. It's not that you're taking it over or anything like that, but it's like you're giving them the platform. You're telling them, hit me. And they're like,
but like I also got a lot more experience, right? In the way that maybe you could probably whip a beat out of your ass. I failed for years on YouTube. I don't want to say failed, but by my standards of numbers and success and where I wanted to be 4 years deep in the game, I failed hard, dog. I didn't take L's, but I failed hard, right? So like we had a core thing that grew and whatever. So when I'm coming into this though, it's like I'm in month 50. It's not like I'm in the beginning now. So I have a skill set that's almost been developed specifically for long form content. And then I started doing it myself this year because Chris couldn't come by no more. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna start talking to the camera more. And then it turned out that was dope and people liked it. So I just started doing it by myself. And when you just pop off album review after album review by yourself talking to a camera, dog, and you just come to this is great. This is just a fun version of that shit.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's enjoyable to watch, honestly. When you have somebody that's going back and forth with you properly, it's very enjoyable to watch.
I think that's cool. I mean, the number is not going to a disappointingly low point, so I'm really fucking feeling happy and hyper about it. People keep chatting and shit. It's fucking dope to me. It's a great experience. So
and
like,
I saw that. Sorry to cut you off, but I saw that in one of your recent videos, you had the gray toque instead of the Montreal's finest toque, and I said, I hope he has the Montreal's finest toque when he does mine, because that's, you know what I mean. That's
it was so it's not like it has. So I try to do it for every interview. I might not do it if I'm doing something else because, like, honestly, I'm, like, kind of, like, worried about it. But, like, you know, sometimes I got to go through it in the laundry basket a little bit here and there, you know, and stuff. But in general, like, it's actually really important. This is also strategic. I don't actually have anything else that says Montreal. So when I talk to Iron Solomon, you can't watch that video without seeing and hearing Montreal, right? And when I talk to anybody else moving forward, and we have a couple of interesting names that I don't know if I can announce yet or not, whatever it is, what it is, you're going to see Montreal there because that's really important to me. And I didn't know that when I started, but I learned that along the way. And now it seems to be smart and people like it.
Yeah. No, I love it. Me, marketing wise, I love it. I think it's perfect.
Anyway, let's go back to you though, because I mean, as much as I love talking about myself, my girlfriend has definitely heard most of this shit before, and she is right there. She's the last comment. I can see it. I can picture her going blah 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 blah. Anyway, she actually does do that. Love you, bunny. But let's go back to you. It's like early 2000s, and yeah, stuff happens.
Yeah, so stuff happens. What am I doing? I'm realizing that yeah, that everybody's story is the same. You know what I mean? That much being in Montreal is not an excuse to not do it. So it's either you're doing it or you're not. You know, and it's as simple as that. And especially with the internet nowadays, like, bro, you don't even have to go to these places anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you can just flip on your computer and you can go anywhere in the world and you can promote and you can network and you can link with people. And so it's like the excuses shift went out the window and you started grinding, you know? So the first CD was this one, which was, like I said, a mix of other people's stuff and whatever. And I'm just going to go grab it quickly because it's here
Do
too.
your thing.
Then the second CD, keeping with the marketing, same. Boom, Cali Productions in the front. Now we're diamond, you know, we went
I
from the
got a
silver.
question.
Talk to me.
Why are you not on the cover, but it's just a logo?
It was marketing. It was to push the brand. It was to push the brand. That was really the idea. I wanted to make the brand because it wasn't just supposed to be for me. It was supposed to be a brand that everybody can do their thing and come out from under, you know. But actually, one marketing thing that I didn't think about that kept happening to me, which is actually how I ended up with my name that I have today now, the Merker Miyagi, is actually because so people started calling me Cali, so I was Cali. Then people said Cali Productions, so okay, Cali Productions was the company. But then it would be like Cali, produced by Cali, Cali Productions. It's just Cali, Cali, Cali. Or people would think that Cali Productions is a group, you know, because I would do shows and I would bring my mans onto the show so that they could do the show, and they thought Cali Productions was a group.
Brilliant.
And I'm like, bro, but it's Cali Productions is not a group. So I said, okay, I have to like distance myself from that, and then I made Merker Music. So Merker Music was supposed to be the umbrella now that I can be Cali under and other artists can be themselves under, and it's not looked at as a group and it's just the label and whatever. But Facebook is popping around those times, started popping. So I made a page, and you couldn't make a page Merker Music. They didn't have business pages back then. This is like the early beginnings of Facebook. So it couldn't be called Merker Music or, you know, Cali Productions. You couldn't do those things. So I called it Merker, what was it now? I can't remember now. It became Merker with an M too. It was Merker something. Fuck, I can't even remember now. Anyways, Merker something. And then and it was supposed to be a Facebook that everybody uses. Everybody on the team can use it and network and whatever. Then it ends up being just me that's using it. And then people, once again, so then people will come to the studio and identify me as Merker and say, hey, Merker. And it's like, bro, my name is not Merker. You know what I mean? Like it's Cali. And it was so weird when people would call me Merker. But then like Cali is ungoogleable. You're never going to be able to find any of my music under Cali. I've dropped plenty of music. I have music videos, but under Cali, it's unsearchable. I'm going up against the state of California. There's too many like
Big
Googleable
facts.
things from Cali for me to pull it up, you know? So I said, okay, fuck it. I'm going to work with what's working. You know, I'd have people at work say, oh, I tried to look you up. I couldn't find your music. You know, they know my government name. They can't find under that. They know my Facebook name. They try to find under that. They couldn't find my music. I said, okay, I have to stop this.
Woo.
And once again, adopted the company name as my own name. It's like, you know, you try to do something and it just keeps sending you back. So fuck it, we'll do Merker. And if you Google Merker Miyagi, my things are the first things that pop up.
Yo,
you know what I mean?
speaking of Googleable, I tried to go by HSR at first. And that's a bad idea because it's the fucking name of the Hamilton bus service. It's the name of the new train shit. It's also this beat maker. So I actually had to rebrand. But I actually launched my Spotify without looking it up first. So now all of a sudden I'm sharing my first bit of Spotify with this next guy. And then I'm like, he's got way more views than me. And then people kept being like, bro, why is there this beat maker on your shit? And I'm like, oh. So I had to rebrand as my like government name because I'm like, fuck it, that's at least Googleable. So I appreciate where you're coming from. But I actually have a question that I forgot to ask before. So when you were talking about that remix track that you did with Akon, I saw that there was this 50-something week challenge that was linked in several of your videos from that time in 2005. This is 2005 because that's what your YouTube said. So tell me about this challenge because there's only 3 or 4 of them that are available there. And where are the rest of them? And what is this challenge about?
Okay, so the 52 weeks was actually what I came up with a few years ago when I decided, okay, I'm in a situation where, you know, I'm a father, I have a family to take care of. I can't be spending $2,000 on a music video. You know what I mean? I can't be like, there's just better things that my money could be going to, or more important things. You know what I mean? Like, I can't be having my son in shoes with holes in it because daddy's pretending to be a rap star in music videos. You know what I mean? Like, that's not an option. So I said, what can I do to get my name popping? You know what I mean? Like, social media is free. You know what I mean? Like, I also realized that if I just walk up to somebody randomly and say, yo, check out my track, and they listen to my track, it's, yeah, that's cool. It's like basically the best possible reaction I could get. Maybe 1 out of 100 will be like, yo, that's actually dope and whatever. But for the most part, there's no connection to it. So I realized that it's not about the music. It's about the story, the person, the artist. That's what people buy into. They buy into the person, and the music is just one of the ways that they consume that person. So you have to make them a fan of you, and then they'll be open to your music. You feel me? People would come here. People come to the studio, they pull up with people, whatever. If I'm just myself and we're hanging out and we're chilling and smoking whatever, and then I crack my jokes and whatever, people vibe me and say, yo, that's a cool guy. And then we come inside and I say, yo, and then I don't even tell them like I make music or whatever. It just comes up naturally in conversation. Yo, Kelly makes music too, eh? I say, what? Okay, let me hear a track. Okay, boom, play the track. Yo, that's fire. And that, because they've already bought into, they've already been like sold on who I am as a person. And so the music is just like, you know what I mean? They can more connect to it. So I said, well, I just have to connect with the people online. I just have to be myself.
Dog. That was the biggest of the knowledge nuggets, man. Like, literally what you said about the people and the music right there. People don't realize why I'm focusing so heavy on these interviews and fuck your album review. Your album review was a little bit of an experiment so I could tell everybody else to fuck off. I'm not going to lie. And no offense to anybody else, but like, look, man, you looked at how many people hit the like button, how many people hit the share button, how many people commented and said, this is so fire, this is so dope. And I can tell you about 20 people watched that shit. Okay, so that's what I can tell you about the album review. We got lit people fucking invested here, and people even peep this after. Maybe not. We'll cut up a couple clips. Maybe people will peep that. But at least this is funner for me. So I made that album review to test it out and to get some numbers and shit, whatever. But the reality is people actually want to hear your story. And they actually want to hear your thoughts. And when they hear your thoughts and they hear your story and they see that you're a sincere and legitimate person, at that point, will they then become a consumer? This isn't some shit we're making up, okay? This is how software companies market heavily to you. I can't go into details on some of that contract shit because it's dangerous with software, but if you just go Google anything about online web marketing, you're going to see that it's all about journeys and relationships, right? So journeys and relationships is everything in this era. And you expect it as a person. You expect it with every company that you deal with. So why wouldn't we expect it with our artists and the local scene and shit like that? And that's part of what attracted me to your brand. I mean, I don't know the Cali part, so I'm kind of glad you sent me that link you sent me yesterday because I never would have fucking thought Cali, a.k.a. Juice. I don't know. We'll get to that. But, like, I never would have found that dude. I just never would have. But the Merker thing is how I know you. So that's how I know you. But part of it isn't really your music, dude. It was more like when you said, because I'd been following you for a while on your Facebook post. I didn't want to like be an asshole and be up in your comments not knowing you, but I watched for a while and I hit some likes and then here and there I teased some shit and you seemed to respond well, so I kept going. But then you dropped your album and I listened to it and I'm like, bro, this is it. Like, it is exactly like, yo, there is a zero disparity between who you are as a person on Facebook and the music that I heard. That it is what it is, face. It is so prevalent, man. I love it. That's why it's there in the fucking screen. It's part of your brand. In my opinion, that shit, I love it. It's my favorite fucking thing, dude. It was that thing alone that really caught my eye at first, because you just know you just put things out there and shit. Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
I'm stop.
But to go back to the 52-week thing, because that was it. I said, okay, I have to get my story out. Well, a combination of wanting to get my story out and the fact that I had been creating music, making CDs, all this stuff, and none of my shit was really available digitally. So I say, like, yo, if I die tomorrow, Like my shit dies on my computer and with whatever physical copies are left, and then that's the mark that I leave. So it doesn't make sense. All of my music has to be on SoundCloud, on YouTube, on whatever, because even if I just put it up and it gets 5 views and whatever, and then when I die, everybody goes and listens to it, whatever, who cares? It's the fact that it's available for the people that want to find it. And so the 52 weeks, it was the 52-week journey of dropping a track every week. That was the idea. So I announced it. I said, this is my story. I started with my crisscross story. That's when I decided, when it became in my head possible that I could do this. And that was the ignition. And then with every song, I share like the story behind it, because I would read the source. They would interview artists about their music, right? And you could ask one artist about their song, and there's a story behind it. It was, this song, it means the world to me. It was, when this happened in my life, I, figured this out, yada, yada, yada. There's this whole thing. And so this is me expressing that, whatever the case is. And I said, okay, that's fire. And then they would ask other people, and they'd be like, yeah, we were in the studio and Jimmy threw on this beat. And then so I did a verse, and then Whoop-de-Woo jumped on it and he did a verse, and then that's the track. And I'm like, bro, what is that? That's literally nothing. It's just random words you guys put together. Not to discredit, like, vibing in the studio and just creating to create, but it's just, for me, it's like, okay, that's a whack song to me. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing behind it. And all my music, it's me expressing something that you know what I mean? Like, from the heart or whatever the case is. So I said, okay, I can put these songs up and I can give the story behind the song. And maybe if people know the story behind the song, they'll be more inclined to listen to the song. Or if they know the story behind the artist, they'll be more inclined to listen to the song. And the idea was to put out a song every week for a year, 52 weeks. And then at the end of it, drop the Long Nights EP. And so that was my marketing, because I knew I didn't have marketing money to invest. And so I said, okay, this is the way that I'm going to do it. And it's fucked up because I never actually went all the way to the 52 weeks. I topped out in the 40 something, fell off towards the end because it worked. So it's not, you know what I mean? I'm not mad at it, because it literally worked. That's how, like, the reason why people fuck with me online and whatever, it was from there. I actually sat down, had a conversation with young Major, shout out to Major. And it was with him. To be completely honest, I don't even remember the conversation, so to speak, exactly what it was. But from speaking with him that night, it was like just moment of clarity. You know what I mean? A flash of genius, or whatever they call it. And I said, that's how I'm going to make it work. And that's when I put together the 52-week thing. And that's when I started sharing these songs, when I started posting them on SoundCloud. If you go to the Cali, aka Drew SoundCloud, just some of the songs, like the Akon doesn't go on SoundCloud because they know they recognize that it's a release song and it gets blocked. So there's some stuff I wasn't able to put up everywhere. But for the most part, I would put it on YouTube. I would put it whenever I posted on Facebook, and that was the 52 weeks. So the 52-week journey, my music life, Merker Music, is the same 3-4 hashtags that are there. And that was how I built up the traction, and then how I eventually became Merker Miyagi, and, the reason why we're kind of here today.
Oh, but for real, that 52 track thing is like big time how content marketing actually works, right? It's regular, consistent, of a quality level, and then over a long ass period of time, you build up attraction, and it makes a lot of sense to me. Like, a lot of people are even doing it now. Like Webby did it with Webby Wednesdays, Crooked I did it. A bunch of them have done it at this point, and you're doing it in 2005, right?
No. This is now. This is like 2-3 years ago. But it's the songs are, because then I'll put like beside. I'll be like, okay.
So I got that a little bit mixed up. Okay.
Yeah, week 4. This is a song from 2005, and so I try to do it kind of chronologically too. So the song pressure, because then people see the me developing as an artist too, right? They get to see the growth. I'm like, okay, this is how I used to sound. And then they get to see me like finding my sound over time. You know what I mean? So I went from the oldest songs and dropped them, build up to to the most recent. And like I said, the pinnacle was the Long Nights EP. So this is like 3 years ago.
Okay. I honestly thought that these tracks were like back in the day, because I was confused.
The tracks are from back then, but just like put up online. Like the Akon song was only available by CD.
Okay, so you're saying these are songs from back in the day that you only started releasing recently,
like re-releasing digitally.
Okay. I'm following now.
digitally. You know what I mean? They weren't available digitally. So I get to say, and I get to tell the story, you know, when I dropped the Akon track, this is my first song that got played on the radio, and shout out to Don Smooth. And you know what I mean? Like, because all these people played a part in my story. Of course, I get to, like, you know what I mean? It's all intertwined, and it's a story. You know what I mean? It's my story.
Okay, so I only asked that question because I thought, I don't know, I saw some 2005 shit, so I didn't realize whatever. So let's go
No,
back
really?
to, like, you know, the 2000s when you're doing your thing, and what's going on over there.
Yeah. So after the first one, the second one was all produced by me and Ips, the other producer on the label, my brother, and so that one was like really a full-fledged album, you know. But back then you couldn't call things album; it had to be called a mixtape, otherwise nobody would listen to it. So that's when we dropped that one, and it was all in-house produced, and we kept it pushing. But then after that is when my son was born, and now I couldn't afford to print up 5,000 copies of shit and just do whatever, you know. And I was tired of, because like the Cali Productions is basically, it's my sound, you know, but everybody is on it. There's like 3-4 other rappers that are on it. And I said, okay, it's not fair that it's just my sound, because this is supposed to be a platform for them to do their thing too. So after the second one of this series, by the way, this was called I'm Keeping My Soul, Volume 1 and Volume 2, because the idea is that I wouldn't sell out to the industry. It was about being genuine and just music from the heart. So it's called
Beautiful.
I'm Keeping My Soul. So after the second one dropped, I said, okay, this isn't fair to the artists that I'm working with. They should be able to express themselves how they want on the sounds that they want. And this is when SoundClick is starting to pop off and all that. So I stopped selecting beats completely. I said, I just sat back and said, whatever you guys want to jump on, that's what we're jumping on. So we're jumping on beats from producers from Colorado and from here and from there. And the sound is different now. The sound is harder and whatever. And at that point, that's when I really came into myself as an artist, because forcing me to rap on beats that I wouldn't normally rap on just made me learn different flows and different ways of making the words fit onto the beat and everything. And totally, it's like I would have just stayed the same artist. I would have just been running around in circles doing the same thing forever. But that totally opened me up. And actually a moment that really marked me was when the Black album dropped by Jay-Z. I listened to that Black album, and for me, it was like the majority of rappers, especially with the beats nowadays, with the beats that are so fire, that it's like you don't disturb the track. Like as long as you just come on and you just rap on beat and just don't disturb the beat, the song can run and people will listen to it, but they're just listening to the beat, really. They're not even really listening to you, right? And Jay-Z on that album, I felt like it was like he was making the beats go to his voice, as opposed to his voice just, like blending into the beat with his pauses and with the way that he would do it. It was like he wasn't letting the beat, like if you can picture somebody getting dragged by their dog, it's like most rappers are getting dragged by the beat. And he was like, no, it's my song, it's my beat. The beat's gonna do what I want it to do. And he does his thing. And that just totally changed the way that I started making music. I wouldn't just, you know what I mean? I say what I want to say when I want to say it. I pause when I want to pause. It's my fucking song. You know what I mean? So I don't let the song, the beat drag me anymore. And it's also around that time that I stopped writing, because somebody read my rhyme book at one point, and my rhyme book was like a diary, you know what I mean, to me. So I would write stuff that would never get recorded or whatever. And I didn't like the idea of somebody being able to pick up and read my things and not get to like hear it, how I'm delivering. Because it's, with rap, it's a lot about cadence, it's about flow, it's about, you know what I mean, like emotions and whatever. Because you can read a rap and be like, bro, what is this? And you hear the man spit and you're like, oh, fuck, that's dope. And so I didn't want people being able to read my lyrics anymore. And so I started just creating in my head instead. So I'm not freestyling, but I just take the time, instead of like coming up with a line and writing it down, I come up with a line and I store it and I spit it and I add another line, and in my head, and I add another line and I add another line. And then when I have the 16, I go and I drop it. And sometimes I put verses together that don't get recorded and then I forget them. And that's it. That's just a verse that just never got to, you know what I mean? Like take form, physical form, and whatever, it's lost in the creative heaven or wherever songs go that don't get made. And so I stopped. And that too, like not writing, because the way I used to write, it was very much each line is a bar. So I would da 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 da, you know, the rhyme would come at the end of the line. And then I would even write it kind of like how sheet music is written. Like if I write and then I pause, like the next line, I won't start it at the beginning of the line. I'll start it halfway through. And that's for me to know that I'm letting that breathe. And then I come in here. And so that's how I used to write my bars. But it like kept me within this box. And when I stopped writing and I started just putting them together in my head, I started just feeling like I could put words and rhymes wherever I want now. It doesn't have to come at the end of the line here, or, you know what I mean, whatever. If I try to write a rhyme now, it's like, it's going to sound like my first rhyme. From the devil, you ain't got the mo, like it's like, it just restricts me. And so from being able to just write in my head, it just opened up everything for me. And that's when my music, I felt like I really came into myself as an artist.
I like how you just like humbly bragged that you can just compose tracks in your head and spit that shit like Jay-Z. Okay, I just want to put that out there. That was well done. I appreciate the way you delivered that shit, dude. That was a fucking plus. But impressive, dude. That is really impressive. I'm really like, I'm never gonna be that dude. Cause fuck it, I'm never gonna be that dude. That sounds hard. It sounds like a kind of hard I don't need to pursue.
But honestly, I don't brag about it because for me, it's easier like that. So that's why I don't look at it like, oh, this genius thing that I do. It's just like, for me, like that's when things became easier for me. You know what I mean? And it's around that time. It's towards the end of like on this CD, there's like one track that I did like that. But then the next CD after, which, hold on, I'm gonna go down again.
Let's get it. Yo, thank y'all for being with us, by the way. I appreciate y'all in the chats. I'm watching that.
After that, it was The Chase. So after that, it became like, let's get it now. You know what I mean? My son's born. We got to make this thing pop. We got to go. You know what I mean? We got to have commercial viability. I'm going to let other artists do their thing and everybody's going to shine and we're going to do this together, because I was always investing and putting up the money before. And now I couldn't do that anymore. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to let everybody pick the beats. I'm going to let everybody do their thing. So it's really everybody's project and not just me, you know, like forcing people to jump on beats that I want to jump on or whatever the case is. I'm going to open it up. And then we're going to print up 100 copies and we're each going to put in, at $30, and we're going to print up 100 copies, and then we're going to sell those copies, and then we're going to print up more and we're going to sell more. And so when we did The Chase, by the time we were printing up The Chase, we had The Chase 2 ready already. All the songs were there and done, and we were excited. So we had printed up 100 copies of this. We had sold 100 copies, and people are calling me and they're telling me, yo, I just sold a CD. Yo, I just sold a CD. I said, bless. Okay, perfect. So come bring the money back so that we can print up more. I wasn't telling them like, send me the money so I can put it in my pocket. I was telling them, yo, let's print up more CDs. And mans didn't bring the money back. And I said, okay, that's cool. I don't have the money to be able to print them up myself anymore. So that's just not even an option. I'm not trying to be an asshole and making sure everybody puts in. It's like, bro, if we're going to do this, we all have to put in. And they didn't want to put in. And then they're like, oh, let's drop The Chase 2. I'm like, bro, we didn't even release The Chase 1 properly. We only have 100 copies out of The Chase 1. If we just drop The Chase 2, it's like we're throwing Chase 1 in the garbage. Like, this makes no sense. We spent the time doing it. So I said, no, we're not dropping The Chase 2 until The Chase 1 gets done properly. And then when it's time to put up or shut up, a lot of people start getting quiet. And then people go their own way. And then you end up being the only one that's left really holding the torch with the brothers that really hold you down. And so then that's when I had to recalibrate and say, okay, it's time to focus on my thing. And at that time I started recording out. Now I was recording artists. So I'm working with all these different artists from Montreal. And honestly, it was just really a magical experience in the sense that I never promoted the studio. I never like printed up flyers for the studio. I never, you know what I mean? Like, never really did like hourly packages and with all this stuff. I was just doing me, and just from word of mouth and people bringing other artists and whatever, I ended up working with everybody that was like popping at that time. You know what I mean? The Millie Mills, the Boy Blues, the Eye Blast, and all these people will come to the studio just naturally. You know what I mean? So it was this happening. And then, so since they're coming, I'm playing them my beats, they're jumping on my beats too and whatever. So I have all these songs, and I said, okay, yeah, I'm going to put out a producer album. And that was the Dead on Arrival, because I branded myself as the Digital Doctor. Shout out to Prezi for that one, because I was trying to find a name for myself. and it was I was like bouncing around with like Doctor 514 and all these type of things, whatever. And he was like, bro, he's like digital doctor. He's like, in your studio is the clinic. And I said, oh fuck, that's dope. So from there, the studio started getting called the clinic. I was the digital doctor, and I put out, album, producer album, pushed that a bit or whatever. But now I'm 4 albums deep in releasing music, 3 compilation, 1 producer album. Even when I said, okay, I'm gonna do my thing now, what did I do? I did a producer album where I have songs where I'm not even rapping on it. It's just I produced it and the other mans are rapping. And I said, bro, what am I doing? I still have yet, now I'm like, I don't know how many years in the game, how many projects into the game, and I don't have a solo project. You know what I mean? Like, and so that's when I started the 52-week journey thing. And actually the Jack Johnson EP that I sent you the other night, those are like technically like song like 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, like so somewhere around there. I was like, okay, I'm putting out these 5 songs because it's a project. I didn't want to put out these songs individually. It was already a conceived 5-track project that I was sitting on. It was supposed to be my second project after the Long Nights. I was going to follow up with the Jack Johnson EP. That was how I always planned it. But with the 52-week journey, it just fit in. And I said, okay, I have to drop it. And so that essentially became my first solo EP that I put out.
Is there a story to that? What I mean is, it feels like the song. Okay, like I didn't have enough time to like really do a super deep dive, but like I know the last track had some serious subject matter being discussed, and it felt like throughout the project there was a story arc that took place. Now I'm not gonna lie, I look for this shit and sometimes I make it up, so I don't know if that was a thing, but I think every album is a story and there should be an arc. And if your album doesn't have a story arc, think about that. Yeah.
No, it was for sure. It was honestly inspired from Jack Johnson's music, because when my friend introduced me to the Jack Johnson, like I heard one track and I was like, what? I got to sample this. And then I heard more tracks and I'm
Which
like,
was
I
the
want to
track?
The track that launched me was the I don't know the name. I'm not good with names. My song name, but it's sitting, not the sitting waiting. It's not the sitting waiting. It's the sorry man, I'm blanking.
That's not good, man. Don't worry about it.
But it's so I heard that, and then I heard the next one. I said, I want to sample that one too. And I heard the next one, I want to sample that too. And I said, okay, so for sure I'm doing a whole project where it's only his samples. And so all the songs were really inspired by his music. So it's really what it brought out of me. And listening back, it's storytelling, but within the storytelling, it's a little bit preachy, I find, you know what I mean? Like in a way. And I didn't want that. That wasn't the idea. And so that's why I called the EP I Don't Know Jack. It's a double entendre. So I don't know Jack Johnson. So I'm pretending like I made a project with Jack Johnson, but I don't know Jack. And at the end of the day, all this shit that I'm talking, I don't really know shit either. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, this is just my feelings. You know what I mean? Like it's genuine. It's my feelings and I'm expressing myself. But like, I'm not trying to say I know what's right and what's wrong and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And you know what I mean? Like, so it's really just, a lot of it is me talking to myself, which is the same thing with my Facebook statuses. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, like, I don't know, me, it's just, even when I'm bashing people, I'm bashing myself. You know what I mean? I'm making fun of myself. It's like, these are things that I do. And so I'm like pointing the finger and people think like, oh, I'm talking shit, I'm an asshole or whatever. I'm like, yeah, you're hearing how I talk to myself, bro. I'm an asshole to myself. You know what I mean? Like,
but it's also like a level of like reflective self-awareness too. So like the problem is the truth is an unpleasant thing. And if you look at how middle-class normative society is structured, right, the normal, the common senses, all of this shit, it's really attached to like one like perspective of like life, but this perspective isn't very self-aware. It's kind of the opposite. It's about like, veiling things. It's about like the pleases and thank yous and all of this like routine ritualistic shit that everybody just kind of agreed upon in the 50s or whatever, that this was cool and this is what it is. And I'm like, okay, fair enough, you guys do your thing. I'm not really good at that shit. It is what it is. But when you So when you really think about the truth doesn't really fit into that paradigm because that paradigm is about conformity in a big sense. And the truth is like, yo, you can fucking just Google trend shit and look up how many people make the N-word jokes. And you're like, yo, yeah, racism's not dead, dog. That's way too many searches. It's not like hidden data. You can just go do that right now, right? And I guarantee you that number is going to be unappallingly high. Because that, or appallingly high, whatever, I said it backwards. This is what the fuck it is. It's 11 something. I'm not. This is past my bedtime type shit. But we grinding. I'm loving this, dude. This is fucking is. You're a VIP, dude. You're a VIP fucking guest. That's what it is.
I appreciate you, for real.
But yeah. So it's like when you spit the truth. What I see you doing is spitting truth, and the problem is that motherfuckers don't like it when you spit truth. Like, look, truth isn't like fucking perfection. Like, no, it should be like implied I don't know everything. Like, why do I need to iterate that? Why can't I just have an opinion based on things? Like, why does it like deep down inside it's like, yo, because I write my fucking essay paragraph shit, it's fair enough, I do my thing, but again, I'm talking to myself. She does not want to hear it. She's heard it. Okay, who else am I talking to? I'm literally locked in my apartment, 8 p.m. curfew starting, whatever. Like, what am I supposed to say about that? She just said, well, it's true. She's heard all of it, because what happens is I run through the whole story again and I add like a line. That's how I songwrite. All right, the whole verse, I spit, and I add a line. But I do it on paper. So it's what you do in your head, and then I just write the next line down, whatever. So I actually really relate to how you structure that. But what happens is I run through the whole idea and add the next point. So she's got to listen to all that shit. So instead, I started turning to Facebook, because at least 20 likes is better than blah, 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 blah.
Yourself, for sure. Me, I try to condense me too. I have my big posts, but I try to stay away from those. I try to, when I have a thought or whatever, it's a whole thought. There's a whole backstory to the thought. There's a whole, you know what I mean? Like, if somebody asks me,
I can't meme. You can meme.
Yeah, because it's about condensing that exactly into like one thing. I kind of use Facebook like Twitter, you know what I mean, with the 120 characters or whatever it is. It's like I might have people's attention for 3 seconds, so I got to get my point across in 3 seconds, bro. I can't expect everybody to hit the read more button and sit there and, you know what I mean? Like, I know me, when I open a video, if I'm interested by a video and I click on it, but if that shit is over 3 minutes long, I'm closed. I'm not even starting it. I don't have time for that shit. You know what I mean? So give me a video that's 40 seconds, something like that. You will get my whole 40 seconds. You know what I mean? But bro, I'm checking shit quickly throughout the day. I don't have time to sit down there and take in a 15-minute video. Like, bro, I just don't have time for it. You know? So everything is like quick now. You have to, and actually it's reminding me of something that helped me a lot with my music. I learned from Kanye, because when you listen to a Kanye verse, you hear everything that he says. You know what I mean? Like, there's layers to it in the sense where if you really dig in, of course, yeah, okay, there's like metaphors and or whatever and this, that, but I call it spoon feeding it to you. He spoon feeds you his lyrics to the point that, like, on the first listen, you can pretty much catch everything that he says. And that's what made me like slow down the way that I rap, stop trying to put too many words in there, put pauses at the end of the line so that people can have time to take in that one. Because when they go, oh, that's a fire line, they miss the next 2 to 3 lines. You know what I mean? So I give them that little pause so that they can take it in before I start the next part. So, and I learned that from him. It's the spoon feeding, and I apply that to my statuses too. You know what I mean? I try to spoon feed them, give them a little thought, a little blurb. They might, and then they might ask a question. Yeah, go ahead, ask the question. There's a whole story behind it, but I'm not giving the whole story to everybody. It's just whoever cares enough, whoever's interest was piqued enough by that line, I can tell you what's behind it, or I don't even have to tell you. You can take whatever you want from it. It doesn't matter. It's just me talking to myself, anyways. You know.
I'm not gonna lie. I love what you're saying because it totally is facts. And then I just happen to none of what you're saying applies to me. It's really weird. Okay? So think about it. You subscribe to my shit. I make the longest shit. I make the longest album reviews. I make the longest everything. Dude, when I started writing these Facebook posts, it's because she said to me, pay attention. When people like it, do more of that. When people don't like it. Do you know what I found out? People will read a 500-word Facebook post if I write it for some reason. I mean, look, some of these posts bomb. Some of them
Yeah.
suck ass. They're just, it is what it is. But believe it or not, I pay attention to the performance of my Facebook post, and I go, okay, wow, yo, we sit there, and she's like, nobody's gonna like that. And those are the ones that fucking pop off and shit. And then I'm like, sometimes I'm like, yo, I got some fire here, and it literally gets no likes. And I'm like, but
Yeah,
you know what I realized though is that if you say the right things, like like that one about like burnout or whatever that I was talking about, you say the right things and you explain it with the right amount of detail, people will read it because they'll resonate with them. In the same way
exactly.
that like song amount words doesn't matter as well. Listen, for mass appeal, what you're saying is totally true, but there's always a market for the other shit, which is
Yeah.
also just something worth remembering. Um, Yo, that's cool. That's amazing. BC Music just said he follows me on Facebook, and that's so fucking
That,
cool. That's
yeah.
amazing.
Who's
Yeah.
that?
BC Music, the guy from, I don't remember the name. I know he said it before. Uh, that's fucking cool. He's at Mesa. I will check the membership list after, but in the moment, it's
Yeah.
hard to remember names. I'm terrible at remembering names. I'm pretty good with identities. I create like a persona or something, and I can like remember it. Like it was your little fucking icon thing that really made you stand out. I'm not even gonna lie. That was the smartest shit I think you ever did. It
For sure. I don't know. I saw that. I fell in love with it. I said, okay, I'm gonna use it. Yeah, people fuck with it still.
Oh, he says I need to follow you. Not he did. Okay, that's
Uh,
fair. Respect. I misread
you got a
that.
new fan. That's what I'm talking about.
That's
We
what
got
yo, but we got you a new fan earlier too, and that made me so happy. You wanna know what my proudest moment of all of this journey was? So there's this guy CB Mac, and I interviewed CB Mac. And CB Mac and me is boys now. I put him on my album. My dude Ismail shows up and goes, he fucking murked you. And I'm like, okay, thanks, whatever. And then he like edited to say your second verse was okay. And I'm like, fair enough. It is what it is. I'll accept. I don't care if he likes my verse or not. I love Ismail because he's my patron now. He's like fucking real with me. That's why we cool. I respect his opinion. He respects mine. Um, CB Mac drops his project. Ismail cops it on Bandcamp. And I know 100% of the fact that I'm the reason that CB Mac and Ismail connected. And like to be
mm,
able to do that for somebody, it was the most like wow moment of everything that's happened recently. Because fuck all the other shit. If you can somehow help another man get paid, holy
mm,
shit, that is an interesting level of wow, this is cooler than I ever thought. So when I see a motherfucker show up and be like, yo, I love fucking your like music, or like before earlier, this guy, Audiophil. I met him through fucking Preach on Kobe's DJ network. Yo, the DJ network on Twitch is litty. If you have nothing better to do, pop onto the DJ network. They're like 24 hours a day. They're organized like squad. I'm studying, man. I'm making notes. So I'm trying to get rappers on Twitch. I'm like, guys, let's fucking copy the DJs. They're fucking crushing it. Oh, Audiophil is still here. That guy's
hey,
still with us. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So like, all I'm saying is like that is the coolest part of this to me, actually. Like I mean, I also like learning because I'm lazy as fuck. So you're saving me from googling, and I get inspired from this shit. Anyway, I kind of got rambly again. This is gonna keep happening.
come back to what you're saying about the statuses and whatever. I learned early on that you never know what people are gonna like. You could have the song that you just know, like, oh, this is the best song I've ever made in life, and people listen to it like, meh. Or even like there'll be a line, a specific line in your song where it's like, yo, this is the best two lines I've ever crafted. My entire world is injecting these two lines, and people will skip over it, and they like the line where you go, and I know because and it's like, but that was just a filler bar to get to the next line, but just because the way you said it or whatever, that's what they. So I realized, okay, people are gonna connect with what they connect with. You can't, you know what I mean? You can't determine. You won't know in advance, and even on a deeper level, there'll be something that I'm trying to say, and I'll say it with the best way that I can. And then people will tell me, yo, that bar that you have in that song where you said da da da, because you were trying to say da da da, and I got this from it and whatever. And me in my head, I'm like, bro, that's not what I was saying at all. But I don't tell them, no, that's not what I was saying. I was saying this and whatever. Like, no, whatever you got from it, beautiful. Run with it. That's
That
why
is
like
beautiful,
people's
man.
perception of me or whatever, I don't really care, bro. I'm out there, I'm talking to myself, or however you perceive me. You think I'm an asshole, you think I'm a good guy, you think I'm this, I'm that. It's whatever to me. Different people's gonna see me different ways. I'm just gonna be me, you know what I mean? And
It
whatever's
is.
gonna happen.
Yeah, the thing is, man, is it's not easy. You make it act like it's easy to beat at, but I know for a fact it's not easy to beat at, and you put like effort into maintaining that shit. And I just have to give you fucking respect for that, because you know a lot of y'all make it like, yo, it's fucking simple to just brush everything off. It's not fucking simple to brush everything off. It's a fucking hard skill to like put that in, and if you can do it with ease, it's because you put that time and effort into learning that
No,
shit.
you get destroyed enough times. It does, you know what I mean? Like it starts just bouncing off of you. You know what I mean? Like you build yourself up to be whoever you think you are in your head, and you get destroyed, broke down to nothing. You have to build yourself back up, and you build yourself back up enough times that it's just people can't break you down anymore. You know what I mean? Like production wise, the best thing that ever happened to me, I'll never forget. Rock Battle. I don't know if you know about Rock
I
Battle.
do not know about Rock Battle.
So Rock Battle was a beat site where producers would be able to battle each other for
Whoa.
beats. For yeah, and you could even put up money. So you could put up like we each put up $5, and then we post our beats, and then people come and vote, and whoever has the most votes gets the money. Or you can just battle it for free, and then they would have tournaments where you go up and whatever. So this was me moving away from just keeping the beats, because I've never had somebody say something bad about my beats in person. You know what I mean? Like they're in the studio with me, I'm playing beats. If they don't like something, they probably just don't say anything, or they just go, "Yeah, that's cool." You know what I mean? Like, and then the ones that they like, they say, "Oh yeah, I really like that one." But when I got on to the Rock Battle and started posting my beats there, now it's the whole world, and these people have no connection to me. They don't care. They're gonna give it to me real. And this guy destroyed me, but he did it so precisely. He didn't say, "Yo, your beats are trash." He said, somebody, because I posted my beat and I had like 3-4 comments of, "Yo, this is dope, this is fire, whatever." And then he came in, he said, "Do you guys think this is dope?" Oh, because you get to rate the beats too. So when you go on, you get to comment, and you get to say this is an 8, this is 8.5 or whatever. Yo, that man came on, I will never forget. And he was like, "Yo, people are saying this is an 8 out of 10. He's like, "Bro, this is what's wrong with the sample. This is what's wrong with the drums. This is what's wrong with the mixing. This is what's wrong with the this. This is," and he was spot on about every single thing.
Oof, you don't
And
forget those ones.
every single beat that I made after that, like my production skill and level was like this, and then after that, like it's like I don't even like playing beats that I made before that, because it was like I didn't even know what I was doing until somebody destroyed me, and I had to rebuild myself, and then my beats just a next level, and it was no turning back after that. So
I got a next question because, yo, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit stubborn, and so something you said earlier that really resonated with me was the idea of syllable stuffing and coming in complicated. Like I heard a couple of your older ones. There's always one that's floating around where I felt like you were really into that young, aggressive shit. And the thing is it's like, yo, it's kind of like metal, right? People like metal because it's hard, not necessarily because it's the best. Now, I love metal. Sometimes metal is exactly what I wanted to buy, but the shit I'm drawn to isn't necessarily the fastest or hardest to perform. It's the best composed shit that I'm most drawn to, right? And I feel like in a lot of ways, people look at the skill of rap, and then at some point or another, you're like, I gotta go fast, faster, 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 right? And then I don't know, I did like Rap God at like Just for Laughs. So like, I mean, what is there left to do? You can't go faster than Rap God. Rap God exists, and then Eminem went faster, and it didn't like make Rap God less cool. It was just Godzilla's there, and it's like, okay, now that's there. And you're like, what are you supposed to do? Like, fast is just like when everybody can rap fast. It's not even cool no more. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So I slowed down, and then people heard what I had to say more, and that really seemed to work a lot better. And I feel like if you want to be heard, it's really interesting that you said that.
you have to, because that's what it is.
Oh,
Me, I'm trying to talk to the people. You know what I mean? So it's like,
that
go ahead.
goes back to like an accessibility thing. Sorry, my points might get convoluted, but it's accessibility is the right word for it. If you were to like talk about this from like a software perspective, right? Like how to make the user experience prima optimal. So I think as an artist, my main goal, and I think your main goal is very similar, is to share a message of some kind or another with each individual thingy. And if you want people to listen to that message, you know what you don't do? You don't make a 3.5 minute verse in 2020.
Facts.
I did that. Nobody heard it. It just is what it is.
You know,
But
I
you
go
want to
ahead.
know? You want to know? It's a smart idea, apparently. talk about making a pussy spray and then add in health goals, and people will bump that shit. And I'm like, what? What? The most repetitive, like in my opinion, it was like the most dumb shit. Like in, like you said, the throw it, and then so many people have stopped and said, "Did he just say that?" I'm like, "Is that not a thing people say? Do people not like mention that shit?" I don't know.
Yo, for sure, the shock value. There's a bunch of different ways to get people's attention, but the point is, you might only get people's attention for 30 seconds. So you got to make those 30 seconds count. And if you try to say 300 things in those 30 seconds, you're gonna have essentially said nothing because they're not gonna get anything. And so if I only have you for 30 seconds and I have 4 bars, I have to make those 4 bars count. You know what I mean? I want to be able to get my message across in those 4 bars. And so that's what I did. And I tell people, I preach it to anybody willing to listen when they come here, because obviously I still work with a bunch of different artists. And I tell them, bro, first of all, like 1 verse songs is what it's about right now. And if you want to do 2 verses, cool. But if you're doing 3 verses, you're wasting your time and effort. I'm like, your number 1 fan is not even going to hear that 3rd verse. Take that 3rd verse and put it on another song. You know what I mean? Like, why? It's like you're wasting your efforts. Work smart, not hard. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be about that. And it's
so
like,
that's the thing. Is it took a long time for me to like humble myself out. So my next project's gonna have 3 like tracks verses because I have a vision, and fuck that shit, it's art, and I want 3 verses might come back one day, dog. It's not saying it's over forever. It's over for now. I get that. I understand that. I'm not even trying to make sure people bump it, but currently my biggest track has 3 verses, and somehow it's an anomaly. So fucking whatever. I'm gonna keep it real with it. But to your point, where I had to humble myself out, and where I wanted to go with it a little bit before, was the number of tracks on our project. So you have 5, and then you cut it to 3. So what I saw, what was interesting, is I put out a 10-track project, and at song 5, everybody stopped. Everybody was gone. And I was like, holy shit, Merker put out 5. And I'm like, oh, fuck, what am I doing? And then I realized what Strange Music's been doing since like 2018, right? And then even Kanye back then, right? Kanye was like, fuck that, I see the future, 7-track albums, and everybody made fun of him for it, remember? And now everybody's dropping even smaller projects now. It's like, wow. Like when you really look at those connections in hindsight. And I don't know about so what I see it is you can still release a full album if you do it in 3 tracks at a time.
There you go.
The
Make
last
it volume 2 and 3, bro. Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, who cares?
And then
spoon feed it to them. Make sure they swallow their first spoon before giving them another spoon. Otherwise, you're just throwing food at their face.
Your shut up space stands for the bits. But yo, that's kind of how I look at it. And then I'm like, you know what you do for the last one? You put out the full album, so it's at the top of your Spotify. But everybody knows all the songs now. I can tell you, yo, everybody made fun of Joyner Lucas, but maybe he was actually smarter than all of us with that ADHD release, yo. Everybody made fun of him, but everybody actually heard most of that album. And then when he went to listen to it, it was only like 4 or 5 tracks left to hear. And I'm like, yo, in hindsight, and I never had to stop before, but maybe he was really fucking smart to release that album the way that he did.
I realized it from a long time ago when Damian Marley dropped Jamrock. Shit has like 22 songs on it or something. I love that album. I love the songs on it. I used to bump it in the whip all the time. So, you listen through the whole thing, and then you have like your 3-4 tracks that are like your go-tos that you pull up, that bump and whatever. And it would be like 3 months later, 4 months later, and I'm still discovering songs on the album. Like, oh shit, track 17 is actually fire. I never even realized. And that's when I realized that how much songs people that like get released and just, it's like you're wasting music almost. You know what I mean? Like people come to me, they say, yo, I'm putting out a 12-song album. I said, bro, you have 12 songs. You put your heart and soul into those 12 songs. Put out 3-4 track albums. It's going to play into different situations. Not only are more people going to be able to listen to everything, but now instead of dropping in January your 12-song album that you just spent the last 2 years recording, and then because you're going to drop that in January, and in February people are going to ask you, oh, you're still rapping? Because that's how fast things are moving right now. So instead of like, and then telling them, yeah, you're working on your next one, and then your next one comes out a year and a half later, bro, whatever momentum you built off of your first thing is done, dead. You're like basically starting from scratch all over again. If you have those 12 songs, drop 4 songs in January as a project, and then at the end of February, drop another 4 songs. But now you had 2 months to start making new songs, and then at the end of March or April, 2 months later, you drop the next 4 songs. So now the people that are following you are like, yo, this guy's going in and he's consistent, and you fed them slowly, and now you had time to work on your next 4 songs, so that when June hits now, you're putting out 4 new songs, and it just looks like you're just constantly releasing music instead of this like, all of a sudden there's an album and then you don't hear nothing for a year and a half, and then there's an album, like no, it's not
But
gonna
that's
work.
a big facts thing. I don't even think people see the other side of that. So, I've never been that consistent with music, but I've been really fucking consistent with Behind That Suit. Since the jump, the only times we ever took like actual time off was like almost 3.5 years deep, and the time I had a concussion. So that was fair, damn. That's fine. I fell off a bike.
Damn.
Let me tell you something. If you're pushing 300 pounds, don't try and do bike tricks. It's just like, it is what it is, dog. And now I'm afraid of bike tricks because I had to cut my hair, and I was really mad. That was the worst part, dude. I fucking like all my hair pulled out, and now I had hair like that, and I had to like fucking cut my hair because like, what the fuck are you gonna do, right? You're fucking sitting anyway. You know what it is. No, it's cool, dude. I never had a concussion. It was kind of like cool. It was like not like cool, but like it was cool. Like I'm sorry, but like it was like I'm like 32 and I never had a concussion. It's like everyone had a concussion. I know it's like fucking dumb, but like sometimes you want to have relatable experiences so you can understand like when a guy gets a concussion on TV, what the fuck that really means. Okay, that's kind of what it is.
Never had a concussion. See, I'm jealous. I want to have a concussion, man. Fuck. No one that hasn't had a
But
concussion.
nah, it's better, dude. It fucking sucks. It really does. Like I was actually like, it was about 2 weeks before I could think proper. Yeah, no, like it was slow. It was really like, it was weird. I didn't like it. I don't like things like that. That's why I don't like alcohol, because it slows me down and I talk too much and I don't think right. Yo, shout out for the bits, Spades. But anyway, yeah, I got distracted again. But yeah, back to the regularity. So you know what people did notice about me is I've been sharing Behind That Suit videos for 4 fucking years consistently. Multiple videos sometimes way too many videos. I don't give a fuck. But when I show up, it's like people are like, yo, okay, man's is like, at least you know that I do this. Even if you don't watch, nobody watches them, dude. Nobody watches my shit until this. This is the first thing I've ever done that people are like really, that I know at least, are tuning in to watch. Like I've never had like the Montreal people like show up and shit. I'm like, whoa, that's fucking interesting. But yo, it may have taken years, but like it was just such a huge thing. But part of it, I think, is the consistency. I think like, yo, I'm off work, and this has been like bang, 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 bang this week for interviews, right? That's trying to build a momentum and shit. I can't maintain it. But then we're going to have Mondays and Wednesdays for Montreal and shit. And then Saturdays New York. And then that's going to be it for the rest of the, like, until whenever,
Perfect, because it can't be too much either. You have to find that rhythm that has people being able to follow along. You know what I mean? Because me, I'm a fan of yours, but realistically, I don't have 3 hours
You
to
never
give you
can.
every day.
But that's why we're cutting up clips, right? Because,
yeah,
yo,
love
we're,
YouTube,
we're nowhere near the point where the clip machine is where it needs to be, because the machine is new and it's not well oiled yet. But the idea would be like down the line, we would love to fucking have like 5 clips out of this fucking interview, because the truth is none of y'all will have it, because people will watch a 15-minute video. Some people will tune into the live, and that's the culture I'm trying to build here, because I'm trying to make this a fun time for whatever. But the truth is, you'll have the option of the full video down the line, and you'll have the clips and it's kind of adapting. So in the same way, like if I'm gonna release my next project, all of my singles did all right, dude. They didn't do like amazing, but they did all right. The number of listeners hit like 50 multiple times, and I'm like, wow, that's never really happened before. Put out the album, nobody fucking wanted to hear it. I'm like, wow, that sucks ass.
It's a singles market now, anyways. That's why when I talk about short projects or whatever, like it's not even really about projects right now at all. It's single songs, because you're not asking people to buy your CD anymore, right? You're not walking up to people and saying, yo, I put the CD together. It's 45 songs, triple album, 3 booklets, whatever. Give me $10. Like people would be like, oh, this guy really went in and give you the $10. But you're not asking them for $10 anymore. You're asking them for their time. And
Big
that's
facts.
even way more valuable. And you know what? If you build up a rapport with people online, you might be able to tell them, yo, check out this song. And they might give you a minute and a half or 2.5 minutes. There's artists I genuinely fuck with that I like, that I've heard some of their stuff and I'm like, oh, I'm really intrigued. And they put out a project and I'm like, okay, well, I got to sit down and listen to this project properly. I don't want to bump it while I'm doing something else and I miss, you know what I mean? I don't catch what they're doing. I want to be able to sit down and listen to it. And it's 6 months ago and I still haven't sat down and listened to it. And not because it's a 20-track project, but just because it's like 15, 20 minutes long. I have a hard time finding 15, 20 minutes for myself.
Dude, and I'm not even lying to you. Do you want to know part of why I don't want to do these album reviews? Because, yo, check it. I want to listen to the album. If I'm going to talk about an album, I've changed it up. But the way it used to be, because it was too time consuming, but it was I would listen to the album 4 times in a row. Dude, when I saw some shit that said 1:20, it's like, yo, that's 6 hours. And
the whole day.
And so I did like 500 of these shits. Like, I'm not even playing. A lot of time was spent sitting there. Your Civilization and album reviews was a great combination. I'm never going to lie. So that made it a little bit more fun. But, dude, I had to start playing video games because it was like, bro, you're just sitting there listening to it again and again. So I changed shit up. Now I'm doing it a little different. But part of what got your album reviewed is because I actually was able to fit the entire recording and editing process into my lunch break. I did flip it up to like a first like one listen kind of thing. Don't do that with Eminem. Do not do that with Eminem. Big fuck. It is my most disliked video I've ever made. Was my trying to talk about Eminem with one listen. I was just reacting and it was stupid, and they didn't like it. It was a big mistake. Everyone else, it's fair game because everyone else is like cool with it for some reason. There's a few of them don't do it with. But your shit, I guess, was fine. So I listened to it. I felt it. And I was like, this resonates with me. You know, here's what it is. If you're favorable, people like your shit. Here's the truth about the review game, everyone. The only people clicking on a review are fans of any album. It's the only people that are ever clicking on it. You know, you have about 48 hours where objective people will click on it. Anybody clicking on your review that's going to stay on the internet forever beyond that is a fucking super fan. Okay, and if they're clicking on your shit with 500 or less views, they're a hardcore super fan looking for niche opinions outside the realms of what everyone else is saying. And then if you're shitting on their favorite album that saved them from fucking this, that, the next thing, they're going to murk you in the comments, and you're going to wake up sometimes. I got one actually during this interview. Blah, 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 blah. And it popped up on my phone or whatever. I saw it somewhere and I'm like, oh, fuck this. Shut the fuck up, dude. You know, it's like, fine. 2017 me was an asshole. And you kind of learn from that shit. But then, like, at the same time, it's like, okay, that's fair. Am I going to make the content then that people are not going to like? I don't know. It's a weird question, right? But about all that to say, the fact that I could fit it into 3 tracks and I could do it in, like, my lunch break meant it got done. You come at me with your 13-track project. That's a lot of time, you know? And it's not that I don't dislike any of you, but, like, maybe people will click on a fucking Eminem review. You're asking me to make a 45 to an hour and a half fucking minute video on your content, and you think they're going to click on that and watch it if we're not talking? Just, this is the best way we can get you some buzz, dog. That's my opinion with everybody out there based on numbers and facts and shit. But you actually just did that shit with 3 tracks, though. That is the only way I think I can squeeze some shit in here and there. It made it possible. So even on that attention tip, I totally fucking get it from the reviewer point of view. It's like, yo, actually, these smaller albums are kind. We actually got to a point where we started going, yo, these 10 tracks are better than the 16 tracks. And I'm not going to lie. As time went on, our desire to review fucking bigger projects kind of faded a bit. Like it's so much fucking time, you know. You want to play, but you want to chill at the end of the day a little bit, you know.
Well, people tell me, I'm putting out a double album. I said, well, what are you doing? Stop wasting your time and your music. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, unless whatever your passion is, you want to do a double album, you want to do that. Like, you know, All Eyes on Me is your favorite project ever. You want to have a double album. Go ahead, do your thing. But I just like just marketing wise and everything else wise, other than just your own personal reasons, it makes no sense to do that. If you're trying to get fans, if you're trying to build a buzz and you're trying to do whatever, that's just not the way right now. It's just not. Maybe it will be the way again, like you said, 3-verse songs might be a thing again one day. Because even me now, honestly, listening back to Ocean Views, I should say, sorry, I'm like, fuck, I kind of wish I did more more verses on some of the tracks, you know, or maybe even a 4-track, but it's okay though. It is what it is, you know.
But if we want to expand the hip hop, the marketing conversation. So as much as I agree with everything you're saying, I think it's about pop and algorithms is everything you're saying. There are other ways to play the game, and Griselda Records would be a big fax on another way to play the game. They're not fucking releasing short projects. They're not long, but they're also not that short. They're like 37 minutes, you know, like here and there. And they're doing a lot of them. And they all sound the same. So, and that's what's interesting, right? Like here's the thing, like I love every Griselda project I've heard, but if you were to actually ask me to name 5 Griselda Records tracks, I'd be like, I don't know any of them. I know the albums, and I listen to them fucking back to back, and I love every second of it. But that's it. They're constantly feeding me new. But I realized something changed that a lot of people aren't noticing, paying attention to, and are probably not exploiting. And that's Spotify fucked up the whole market in ways that people didn't necessarily notice. And that's that prior to the current era, old people weren't buying music or consuming music, really. When I say old people, I mean, you look at the trends, man. There's this idea that past the age of 25, you're set in stone, you're not consuming new music, and this is the canon into history. But now I'm watching, like, people that are, like, let's say 50-year-old mom types at work bumping Future. And I'm like, how did this happen? Spotify this, Spotify that. And I realized, yo, my dude is at work. He's 48 years old, maybe older. No, I think he might even be in his 50s now. You know, he's an old Jewish guy, right? And he's well off and all this other shit. And, like, he's like, bro, Spotify keeps suggesting me all these things. And he started sending me some of these crazy, like, deep cuts of hip-hop and shit that are like, yo, you know this came out this year? Yeah, man, Spotify recommended, dog. Because it's actually, like, creating this niche market that when you said, like, the world is not going to have the millionaires, it's going to be the niche. It's because the algorithms is kind of creating this place where people are kind of slowly and creeping in and discovering what they actually like on their own, right? And that means that, like, yo, there is going to be a market for big shit. Because, yo, K Reno, this guy from Houston, dropped 4 projects, 46 tracks, 2018 early, and his fan base ate that shit up. He's eaten off his fans. Is he famous? Do you know who he is? That doesn't matter. I know he's eating off his fans, and he's making big-ass projects, and they fucking memorize his lyrics. So I'm like, okay, is that everybody? No. But there's definitely markets for everything if you understand how to find them, connect with them, and play the respective games properly, because there is a bunch of 40-year-olds willing to listen to new music in a way that never really existed beyond the radio before.
For sure, for sure. And it's accessibility now. You have the accessibility is there, and it opens up everything, even for like the younger generation to have, because like, you know, when we were 15, 20, whatever, it's if you didn't have the physical copy of the CD or you didn't happen to hear it on the radio randomly, you didn't have access to it. If your parents didn't have these old records in the house, you didn't have access to it. But now I talk to 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds that are like, Tupac is my favorite rapper. And it's like, because they can open up the internet and listen to the whole Tupac discography and decide it and identify with it and say, boom, it's accessibility. So now it's open things up. It's not like you're saying, it's not that, oh, the music you listen to in college and then that's it. That's all you're listening to for the rest of your life, because it's all around you and it's accessible. So if you're willing to look, it's there.
So I think a lot of people look at Billboard a lot. And Billboard changed. Billboard used to be a reflection of the streets because what sold was what was hot. And that now Billboard's like a game, right? Like they literally like play games as celebrities to try to rig it. Part of this 6ix9ine shit was like trying to expose how corrupt Billboard was, and like I follow all this Billboard news. And Justin Bieber had a scandal earlier in the year where his official account circulated how to work the fucking Spotify algorithm and told his fans everything they needed to do to like get there, because it's all about playing Billboard. So when you look at Billboard, it's really labels throwing money at effective ways to get shit to chart. It stopped being about taste. So when we all talk about this shit, we all talk about album sales. What we're really talking about, in my opinion, I could be very wrong about this. This is a Holden theory, okay? I just want to put that out there. I think people look at Billboard like it is what it was, when instead it's just rich people playing rich people games. And the real shit is like, go look at monthly followers on Spotify, dog. How many people have 6-figure monthly follower accounts that are just loyal and fucking bumping their shit? There's 8 billion motherfuckers on this earth, dude. Like, I'm like, yo, what? I need 100, maybe 1,000 paying clients down the line to support me and a few people. Like, yo, I'm going, do what the fuck you want a little bit, but manage your expectations. I made that album knowing no one was going to listen to it. I didn't make that album thinking it was going to be hot shit. I actually made it so I could prove I could rap slow to people because people didn't believe it. And then everyone's like, you're not rapping fast. Go. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. You know, I'm going to do what I want to do with it.
Me, I learned in life, it's really about not having expectations, man. The most magical moments I've ever had are just when I went into a situation with zero expectations, because then whatever happens is perfect. You know what I mean? But if you have an expectation, it's never going to be what you expect. So you're always going to be disappointed. You know what I mean? Like, you come into it with just open to whatever possibilities will be, and then you just let the magic happen, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it also depends on what you want. Like, look, if you want to get rich, everything you're saying is true. Like, I'm saying if you want to get rich off of selling music, personally, I don't want to get rich off. I actually want to get rich off of this. This sounds like a cool way to get rich, actually, because I don't mind selling out how I interview a little bit. I'd be fucking glad to throw a fucking sponsor here if I could. I'd be like, shut the fuck up, Merker. Let us have a spot. They're paying me. You know, I dream about those days now. But when it comes to my music, it's always been just, I do this so I can pay for that, right? That's how I look at shit. And I know some people want to get that music for free, this, that, the next. Nah, I actually make all the money so I can make music nobody's probably gonna maybe want to listen to, except for that like one or two song that had done that like resonated here and there. And that to me is like, yo, that's right. Natasha Marie is January 22nd. I know that KB Turcrioloni,
Hey, Dirk Maloney,
he's been
for
like
sure.
booming up in here a few times. He's Friday at 8 p.m. So just Merker
That's
connected
fun.
that one too, right? So Merker is a huge part of like connecting people in my fucking life.
Yo, he's so fucking gifted. This guy is
27.
ridiculous.
Yeah, man, I'm excited, dude. Like, but that's the thing is like I'm excited for all the opportunities that just your Facebook is like a lit place to like network if motherfuckers is really paying attention for real. Like it's crazy how that actually works out with these times. Um, but yo, what goes on between like 2000 and let's say 8 and 2000 and like 15?
So 2008, 2015, my son was born in 2008. So real life happens. Real
Tech
life happens.
Luciano's cool too, by the way. He's in the chats.
Oh,
I
Tech
forgot.
Luciano's the man. Dude, I got to work with so many gifted artists along the way. Tech Luciano's super underrated. This guy is so dope.
Mm.
Stack Doe, super underrated. And then these guys are, there's so many gifted artists in the city. It's ridiculous, honestly.
Yo, the Tech Luciano interview, it was like a virtue signal to OGs that I was like cool to fuck with. It was fucking like amazing. Like he was like the first guy of like that era to really do it, and then everyone else just saw memory lane going down. And like I'm on fucking board. Well, so you were because yo, okay, so we were at 2012. You were doing your golden era mixing of those boys. That's what I call golden era. Is that 2008 to 12 period because it seemed like because that's when I came into it and shit was like lit and even shitty like the shows I was performing at had like 80, 90 people in the tiny bars, right?
What's so dope about that time is because if I look at the beginning of when I started releasing music in Montreal, there was a bunch of people doing it, but everybody was just doing their thing in their own little corner, and nobody was really fucking with each other. And but then that time that you're talking about, that's when artists started acknowledging each other and collabing on tracks and trying to whatever. There wasn't any real fan base out yet, so they weren't really doing it for anybody, but that unity in the scene was important because for there to be fans, there has to be something for them to be a fan of.
Woo!
And it was like creating that, you know what I mean? Creating like the Montreal industry or whatever you want to call it, to where we can say this is the best rapper, or this is the street rapper, and this is the club guy, and this is the, you know what I mean? Like all those positions had to be established, and that's what that was. And I was super blessed, and yeah, super blessed to be a part of that in any way. I was recording people and whatever. I'm, you know what I mean? I might not have been an artist. I wasn't really doing the artist thing too tough at that time, but it was just a blessing to be a part of it in any format. I remember Yo, those times, 2010, I remember I'd be in the car listening to K103 Don Smooth, and I would be able to hear three songs back to back that were all recorded at my studio. Like one or two of them I produce, or even like hear two, three songs back to back that I produce. All three of them was just like,
So you know
wow,
what's
what's
crazy?
happening?
Back then, I probably heard your production and had no idea you existed.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I know
it was.
that, like, for a quick, because I was living on Elmhurst. So for a
Mm-hmm.
quick minute, I geeked on fucking iBlast, realizing, like, he was there and, like, wow, like, yo, my block that I'm living on when I started rapping for Real Reels is actually significant to shit. That's fucking cool, right? So, like, the back, so when I first CD, I made an album cover with the back cover that never came to life. It's just in a picture on Facebook. But I actually took a picture of the fucking corner of Elmhurst and Trenholm and I zoomed in, and that's the fuck on the back of my album cover because that's where that shit got made. You know what it is? And so like yeah, so I was peeping all this shit, all the videos from that era. I watched all of that stuff. I was following the Magnum guy. I thought that's when I discovered who Dirtwork was. I met a couple of these people in person back then, but they were kind of like big league, and I'm like little guy coming into the game at that point.
You know, I remember Magnum was the first rapper in Montreal that I heard that I was like, oh damn, this guy can actually rap. And it's not like and until then anybody that I heard that could technically rap, they were just emulating other people. It wasn't their own thing. But Magnum was dope, is dope. Not to take anything away from him. This guy's still fire, super underrated, if anything, because he's one of the best in the city, hands down.
Mm.
And but this guy is just sick, sick. And I heard him and I was like, oh fuck, there's artists in the city that can actually make proper music. This is like there was a chance, and this is like a little, you know, like open mic shows or whatever. This is like I'm talking. This is I don't know how long. This is yeah, 2005, 2006, somewhere around there. You know what I mean? I was just like, yeah, this is dope, and then that's when everything started coming together, and the music just got better, and
All right. So you lived through the golden era, and let's say with all the pieces in place that we're all trying to create, because yo, I'm not the only one doing this, which is an
mm,
incredible thing for me to say. There's like 514 Online Mix. I see CY's trying to get up in this world and doing his thing. Misery wants to do his thing, and yo, people like might think you get jealous about this, but yo, I watched this Facebook live from Facebook about lives, which is a weird thing to say, but it is what it is. But they were talking about community managing and how communities work. And the truth is the way the Facebook game works without spending hella money is to go my contest group as an example. I'll give you. I have a contest group running, and it's not to promote my contest. There's also Smoking Inc. The Sean Couvret guy, whatever. He has a contest. So now our contests are friends. So I'm sponsoring his shit. He's sponsoring my shit. And then if the next contest comes in, we link up. And what we're actually doing is leveraging our respective networks to create a global network effect and creating like a momentum of shit. So through little grinds like this that are happening, we're able to start recreating Sean of Smoking Inc. Yeah, Natasha Marie said that. Sorry, sometimes the comments are popping up and it's a lot of my eye clashing over. It's a
I can't
compliment though.
multitask for shit, bro. So the fact that you're even able to pull it off with little blanks is
It's a lot of
miraculous.
effort. I'm learning how to live better, but fuck it, people like the vibe. I'm okay with that. Dude, the fact that we're still at 12 people and we're like talking for so many hours, dude, is so fucking cool to me. It just blesses my heart. It makes me want to keep grinding. You know what it is? Like, it's fun. Like, if nobody's there, those are the ones that are like, it's hard. It's hard. Like, it's just not the
All right,
same.
let's wrap this up.
No, I mean I'm gonna do it, right? Because you know that you're
Yeah,
gonna get the content after. But really, like you said, man, it's the people that don't want to like talk, right? Like, they're like, I don't
it's
know.
like pulling teeth. It's like, bro, I'm giving you a platform and speak your piece. I think maybe some people just don't have anything to say. I don't know.
That's possible, or maybe they don't know how to talk to me. I mean, you've talked to me beforehand. You're aware a little bit of my style, but even then, I think it's still like, yo, I'm talking to people I've never talked to in my life. I've never met in my whole fucking life, and they're just got a bunch of opinions and shit, and they just believe in shit, and they're spitting shit. But the problem is then I also met another calm person, and in 8 words, they're using brevity, and they're actually dropping like profound wisdom. So they say like 8 things, and I unpack it into like a 3 minute thing. But when you
Mm.
watch it after I talked 80% of the fucking time, because there is.
Yeah, no, you stop. Okay, you stop it, and you're like, and then you break down what they say. But that's one of the dopest things about you is the way that you're able to you identify these things even in the music. Like from you doing even just my album review, I hear you like break down my own shit, and it's like, and you get it, like, bro, there's no feeling like it,
Yeah,
because
I
I'm
mean,
trying to communicate
to
with
be
you. So
fair,
to know that
like,
you received it, it's like, bro, I love that. And you have this, I think it's a gift of being able to connect with people, being able to connect with the music. I
well,
don't know what it's
it's
called, but I
not
think
like,
it's a
but
gift.
it's hit or miss, right? Because yo, sometimes I strike the fuck out, and it's just
Yeah.
awful. Or like I'm in a bad mood and I'm feeling away. Or like, but your music in particular, check it. What's the life like? Corporate grind, making side hustle, grow, trying to make $1 million, clean and legit. I mean, I could write your songs from a content perspective. Like
Mm.
I wrote an album about the alternative grind. It's about corporate America and shit. It's about being an office worker and how it's a fucking grind. And I use a lot of hip hop words to correlate these things together as ideas. Most people wouldn't probably feel it. Whereas I feel like if you heard that product, you don't have to. It's long. I get it. You don't have to bump that shit. But like, I'm not. But like, if you heard it, you might be like, bro. You might even catch things other people wouldn't catch because they don't. You know, like it is what it is. But when I heard your album, I'm like, yo, poor Merker. I'm his target audience. Poor Merker. Nah, but
Nah,
it's
man.
good because yo, here's the thing. I say that as a joke because you're definitely far from mainstream, but you're gonna have such a powerful niche following that you're gonna eat forever. You're good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I learned that from living in the Bay Area, man. Because in the Bay Area, the hustle is so real, and they're about that independent grind. And the thing is that
Mm.
they don't play the industry game, because the industry game is very hit or miss, and it's like, because everybody's on board and they love you 1 second and they hate you the next. But in the Bay Area, I've seen artists become millionaires off of just selling CDs out the trunk to their fan base. Because what's dope about the Bay Area is that there's like 3 or 4 cities all within like hop, skip, and a step away from each other. Like imagine if Vancouver, Ottawa, Toronto, and Montreal were all like, a 45-minute drive away from each other. Because you have San Francisco, you have San Jose, you have Oakland, you have, you know what I mean, a little bit further out, you have Sacramento, you have all these cities where it's like these markets where you can just literally get in your car and drive for 30 minutes, and then you have a whole other market, a full big city market, where here you'd
Mm.
have to drive like at least 2 hours, hour and a half, whatever, to Ottawa. You know what I mean? If Toronto's 6 hours, it's more spread out. So there it's concentrated. The population is popping. You have such a big market. And so if you can have 10,000 fans that you can sell a $10 CD to directly,
Good.
you'll make that same $100,000 that we were talking about. You make it every time you drop an album. These
Yo,
people are dropping 4 albums a year, 5 albums a year. They're making $500,000 a year if with a 10,000 people fan base.
I
If you have a
really.
100,000,
So yo, I actually bumped an E40 album along my album review quest. The problem with E40 is they're all about basically the same track on repeat. Not to disrespect him, E40 is one of those guys that literally never has to change. He could
yeah,
literally just read phone book shit and it's like, I'm gonna read the phone book like this. And he's like, fuck it up, man. Just keep talking, E40.
too
But yo, he
short.
spits mad game. It's mad game. All it is mad game. It's just, I don't know how many times I can listen to E40 tell me how to make money in a row before I'm like, okay, E40, I got it. I can't do reviews on this. I can just enjoy your music. You know what I'm saying?
Short. Too Short will tell you fuck bitches for fucking 15 songs every single time. You can take a verse from his first album and couple it with a verse from his latest album, and you won't bat an eye. You're not gonna say, "Oh, he sounds different" or whatever.
Mm.
He does his shit, but this that Bay Area shit, man. I'm telling you, they're genius
No,
out
I
there, bro. That's
love
where
it. And I'm not
you're
even
from.
disrespecting it. I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, as a reviewer, it's like whatever. But yo, don't even get me wrong. It's kind of like in that same Griselda tactic. You keep dropping consistently the fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't expect anybody to really go back. You just keep making it new, and you keep
Yeah.
making it fresh, and you keep
Anyway,
making it hot. And with that, you're able to keep, and that's a whole different grind. But you also don't necessarily, and you know what? Within that, you're gonna get classics, just on a law of average shit.
for sure, for sure. And what you were talking about the groups, the contest groups, and like linking together and sharing networks and whatever, bro, they kill that shit out there. The collab albums, Right, they've been doing that forever in the Bay. And because if you have your 20,000 fans and I have my 20,000 fans, well, now instead of making 100 grand, we're making 300 grand. You know what I mean? On the album, and we're splitting it same way. But now some of your fans became mine became yours. So when we do our next solo shit, instead of making 100 grand, we're making 200 grand a piece now. And they do joint albums, and it's a different world. It's a whole world in itself. And then as soon as you step out of the Bay Area, nobody knows about these things. Nobody knows about JT the Bigger Figure. Nobody knows about RBL Posse. Nobody knows about.
I know about RBL Posse. They're fucking fire. Holy shit. We did them from an album review and shit. Oh my gosh, man. There are tracks that they have that to this fucking day I'll still play. Like, I don't know. This one song, I can't remember what it's called, but it comes on and it's like got this weird, like, boom, 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 boom kind of beat. And they just start coming through with this swagger that you just can't. I'm like, oh my gosh, these kids are fire.
Don't be no Bammer. We don't smoke that shit in the SFC.
That is an amazing song, dude. It's such a good track.
Yeah, for sure. Too dope. And then a lot of these samples that you hear Puffy use and whatever that went 3-4 times platinum with Biggie and whatever. Man's in the Bay Area sampled them from time they sampled them, and it's just, it never went as big as whatever, but they sold it to their fan base there. No record label didn't eat off of them. They went straight to their pocket and they just built their shit, and it's just Rapping Forte and these guys are just, it's too dope, man. It's too dope.
But it's kind of like what the future of this shit's gonna be. Like, this is where, like, I'm looking like, let's just talk about the reality of live shows. It's 2021 and Montreal is locked down until February. Every time that it gets locked down, a lot more places are likely approaching bankruptcy in terms of venues and things like that. So the longer this goes on, the less things. Like, people, I know, there's this weird thing. I talk to people and they're like, live's gonna come back and it's gonna be immediate, and I'm like, hold the fuck up. How? All the bars closed. The bar that was I was gonna do a show, you think that bar is still around? No, it died. All the Sala Rosa died. They all, like, classics.
No. Done?
Gone. I might be wrong, don't quote me on it. It's what I remember now. Okay, I'm just saying. But, like, we're talking bars like that, like established shits are dying. So maybe they open up again, but when? And then, are we able to get these places? Are we able to even afford these places now? Like, who's throwing the shows?
You're going to need a vaccine passport to get a crowd up in there. So forget about it.
So, like, anyway, I don't know. I'm looking at it like, on the other hand, why don't we just do this on Twitch? Go subscribe. You can get tips. Like, it's like, what are we doing?
I was actually talking to the wife about this just the other day with networks dropping their streaming platforms. Cable is going to be done just now, because, like, if CBS can make an app and then sell you their content directly to you for $5 a month, like, that $200 you're paying Bell, they're not seeing a $5 from their CBS channel being there. But if they can market directly their content to your phone, to your television, through an app, through a streaming service, you're giving them $5 and they're collecting that entire $5. You've cut out the middleman. Videotron, Bell, these things are going to die cable wise, obviously.
Cable has a market. It's not going to die yet because old people, dude, they still make Coronation Street.
Eventually, as the more and more. That's why every time now you watch TV, there's a show, Bob and Abishola coming on tonight. Watch it at 7:00 or stream anytime. They're shoving it down your throat because, they want you on their site watching their shit. They don't want you.
Facts. And the truth is, with the binge economy, how it's gonna end up working is everybody's just gonna, like, fucking pop over this way, that way, and go to different shits. Like, they know that nobody's gonna be loyal, and I think that people think people are gonna be loyal, but let's be real. Netflix got rid of Hell on Wheels, and I'm not done Hell on Wheels, but it's gone off of Netflix. So now what am I supposed to do? So I put on Sons of Anarchy, and I'm sitting there going, why do people love this show as much as it do? I don't fully get it. It's a soap opera. It's like Power. It's a soap opera. Like, it's got a vibe, but, like, there is nothing original in Sons of Anarchy. It's just bikers. Is it enjoyable? Yeah. If that's your thing, go for it. It's a great show. I mean, there's that, like, Power Lady and shit in season 1. But I'm like, this isn't Hell on Wheels. That had Common in it. And Common is a fun guy. Like, he carries scenes and shit, Anyway. So, but then it's like... So it's like, do I then go to the next place to keep watching this? Do I steal it? Like, what am I supposed to do with this shit? Like, fuck Netflix, And then, like, Netflix has got kind of trash. Where's my loyalty there? We just got Disney Plus, Are we gonna
What have
stay
you
with
done for me
Netflix?
lately? Hmm?
What?
I said it's that. What have you done for me lately? You know what I mean? You got my $10 last month, and I enjoyed it. But bro, if I can't find nothing to watch this month, it's one button to cancel, and I can give my $10 to somebody else and get some fresh shit I haven't seen before. For sure,
Big
you gotta.
facts. So to that complements what you're saying, right? Because I think all the mega networks know that that can happen too, and I'm pretty sure when you unlock CBS for a month at least, you get access to all this canonical backlog shit from like you can probably watch. Yo, do you know how people? You know what? You know how they're gonna get old people? You can watch the news from back in the day for $7.99 a month. I mean, you get motherfuckers to come back through and watch the news and like just be
Also,
like,
I think what's keeping cable alive too is sports. Once
mm,
sports moves off of it, like once you have a streaming platform for sports, I'm not afraid, but I mean these are big like $1 billion contracts that they have with networks and whatever, so it's gonna be a tough switch over. But once the sports switches over, then it's gonna be like what you said. The only thing is gonna be news, man, and even the news
mm.
once you can start
But yo,
and the
those
way they.
networks. So there's one thing, a caveat there. Those networks are gonna crush in VR. So
Mm,
maybe they carry over to VR. Like it's a transitionary phase. But let's like talk about the future even further, right? There's spaces. So there's Clubhouse, right? That has like spaces of audio shit and whatever, so you can talk on there, and that's a spaces type environment. Then there's VR chats in the virtual reality. So spaces are where they have private rooms and it's little enclosed environments, and these motherfuckers kind of grow, and you collect shit in little enclosed areas. So Facebook's currently working on Horizon, which is their big fucking VR move. And if you think about it, like in a sense, even Twitch channels are kind of little spaces, and everything about the future of the shit is gonna be spaces. And now they're gonna gate the shit out of it. You know, I'm getting fucking like notifications from Facebook for my work shit saying you guys can do paid events now. Ding 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 ding. And they got partnerships with everybody. So the way I see it is down the line, it's all gonna be private spaces. So CBS is gonna have a sporting event, let's say, and they're gonna have a private contract with whoever or whatever. I don't know who the fuck they're partnered with. And you're gonna have to spend $100 to get that VR experience there. You can watch it on fucking TV. But that VR experience will have you in the middle of the fucking like the game
they're,
or whatever
yeah,
shit. It'll be
they're
like,
already doing it with like the season pass shit. So basically with the NFL, you can give them your $250 or $300 or whatever for the season. You get every single game. You can watch whatever game you want. When you're watching the game, you can choose the camera angle that you're watching the game from.
mm,
So it's like you get to, you know what I mean, you dictate your experience now. It's not just okay watching it and you don't have to watch
I gotta like,
commercials. It's like, wow, it's next level shit.
I gotta try some sports shit. I got a VR. I haven't actually one time even tried to go to a sport. I'm not really a sports person, but I want to have the experience of like seeing what this actually feels like. But yeah, even Eminem was on that tip early to give Eminem some credit in terms of using tech. There was an interview he did like in 2019 or 18 where it was like in a limo and they put a 360 camera in the limo and it had like a VR immersive experience. And I thought that was nifty because I'm not saying he's the first, but I didn't encounter anybody doing that. And I was super getting into my VR's the future phase before like people fucking cared about it at all. You don't want to be an early adopter to tech. I can tell you something. You do not want to be an early adopter. It's like maybe you do. Maybe if you're a love exclusive cool kid shit, be an early adopter to tech. Don't see shit like, yo, man, nobody fucking cared about VR until fucking COVID. Like nobody cared at all.
Yeah, for sure.
And then
No,
even now,
COVID, COVID gave people a bunch of time that they didn't have before. And when you're trying to vie for people's time and attention,
mm,
people are at home, they're not working, and all they have is time. So this is like if you're a content provider, this is your time to shine. Like people have that 15 minutes to give you now that they didn't have before.
but even to that end, there's got to be a different thing. Like people complain a lot about YouTube, but I never had trouble with YouTube because at the fundamental element of my channel, we can talk about the most gangster shit. We can talk about Black history with the full depths of slavery. We can encounter every fucking topic that you can think of, but we always do it from a lens of education. So we've never been clipped. We're like reviewers exploring and learning on the fly and shit. So even if we have hot takes that are wrong, like yo, our content holds up in YouTube's future. Even though we never censored it. Shit, I started smoking pot on YouTube. We're on YouTube right now. We talked about all this shit, and they're not gonna get mad at us. My video will stay monetized, except for some maybe copyright issues with your music earlier in it. Whatever, I don't give a fuck. But like, I guess where I'm going with it is, you have to provide an educational component, I believe. And that's the future of shit. So you look at who's winning on YouTube, it's news providers that are sincere and genuine. It's video essays and thought pieces that are actually longer than you would imagine. So the new hot length is 40 minutes, Merker. Content is getting longer. Podcasts are taking over at number one. So in the world of music, you're correct. But we're talking talk radio now. Talk radio.
Yeah.
I actually Googled radio stats because Spades was all like, bro, radio's the shit. And I'm like, who the fuck listens to radio? And then I posted and I got like about 15 comments within an hour being like, I listen here. And they were like a wide range of people with a wide range of circumstances. So I'm like, okay, radio is a thing. But you know what? I Googled the stats. Talk radio and country music are the driving forces of radio. What are we doing here? We're talk radio. We're talking about real shit too. That's why I don't want to talk about the music forever and ever. Because here's the thing. That's all the other interviews you'll get on the internet, dude. That's everyone else. Everyone else is going to ask you all the music questions. They're going to ask you your influences, blah, 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 blah. And if Lindell Williams, my patron, shows up, he'll make me ask you what your top fives are or whatever. But, like, otherwise, it's like, yo, I want to hear your thoughts about, like, regular shit. Or how to market better. Or, like, how we going to grow. Or how do you fix the scene? You know, not to say that there's a problem. I'm not on team there's a problem. I'm on team, yo, the youth is crushing. The youth is crushing.
Thank you. I really can't stand that angle, honestly, the whole, like, the complainers and the talking about the haters and whatever. For me, like, that's just such failure talk that it's like, bro, if you're talking that, I don't even want to take that in because that's not where my mind is, and I don't even want to be exposed to it. I'm more scared about catching that than I am about catching the coronavirus, honestly, because that hater talk shit is going to fucking hurt me in the long run more than anything else. And, like, I think people just need to focus on themselves and build, man. Like, a lot of artists are just looking at each other and like who's sharing whose stuff and whatever. And it's like, right. I don't know, man. It's like, we're all selling clothes. Let's say we're all selling clothes. Okay. Like Gucci doesn't care about Versace sharing their, you know, what Versace cares about their fall line. You know what I mean? Like, Gucci does their fall line to try to be the best, and they push their shit, and they have a common respect. Like, I'm not saying it's about, like, shunning each other or whatever, but bro, until you actually have a fan base, like how you're talking about the cross-sharing thing, until you actually have a fan base, the cross-sharing shit is just circle jerking, bro. Like, it doesn't get anybody anywhere.
I want to talk about that. So one thing I see about your posts is if I were to break down the ratio of people in the scene to out the scene, dog, it's like 95% in the scene. And sometimes I see these rapper peoples and they post and they get like numbers and I run it through. And I'm like, wait, but these are all like your homeboys direct or in the scene. And then I'm like, yo, did none of you guys have like just okay, let's go with corporate terms. I don't know how else to put it, but prospects? Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think people understand how this works. Like, we're all peers, right? Like, at the end of the day, we're peers. We exchange services with each other. We spend money on each other. We give each other time. Whatever. You can make a big argument about a lot of things in that world. But at the end of the day, we're just circulating shit around each other. It's kind of like if you look at what happens in low-income economies where the money kind of circulates maybe out of the pool a little bit. Nothing ever really comes into it. I'm going, yo, how come there's never like actually... So when I say out, I'm talking about Spotify promoter lists now, all this shit. This is money out the scene. It just leaves the scene. Who does it go to? I don't know. I'm confused by that in the sense of if you follow the dollars, like, yeah, sure, you get your views up and shit, and cool, maybe that's your strategy, maybe that's your play, maybe a million things happen. I'm not talking shit about that. I'm just questioning money flow, right? And I'm going, how come it's never like, yo, my peoples at work will go to like the jazz bar and like support the local jazz artist and shit. And the DJ scene, oh my God, dude, my brother was a DJ in the rave scene for 3 years. These kids will drop $20 and fucking come to shows, and they get numbers that are like fucking huge back in the day. Maybe not now because that shit got shut down a little bit. But like in general, I'm looking at other scenes. The metal scene does very well in terms of local support and shit. So it's not like Montreal is the issue, but maybe there's like other stuff. But I feel like I go to the shows and I never really see people that aren't connected to the crowds. And yo, I went to Locksmith, okay? And there was nobody there. And I'm like, That's weird, right? Like, this is fucking locksmith. There was like 15 of us total. But what happens is people see like 40 people in the room, and they're not doing the kind of math I'm doing. I'm going, okay, so that person's with that posse there. And in my head, it breaks into like this colored zone of posses. And when you really break it down, most of these shows is pulled in like 3 to 8 legit fans and shit. And I'm like, yo, this is a health check situation to me. I'm like, okay, so this is not effectively working. And I would go talk to people, and people would be like, well, Holden, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay. I mean, but I also remember 2012 and performing at the CFC, and that shit's on wax, and like the room's full. And I'm like, okay, I haven't seen a full room since 2014. When, like, you know, but you know what happened? A lot of things happen. So it's not to put blame. Yo, you look at Belmont. You know what made Belmont hot? A $20 rum and coke. Go find that rum and coke at $20. It's gone. Go find a $20 anything. It's all gone. So a lot of shit changed. So a lot of people stopped wanting to go out because nobody can afford to go to these bars no more. Is that the fault of the artist or whatever? No, but these are like realities we have to adapt to. What do you think drink prices are going to be when shit reopens? Who's going to be able to afford to go to this shit? That's where I'm coming from. Is it like, and this is a no disrespect, aren't we facing like crazy unemployment?
Mm-hmm.
Like, sure. I'm going 2024, 2025 is when the local live scene gets back to where it needs to be.
Yeah, slowly.
I'm saying the internet is what it is. You know how many people I pitched about VR and the internet? A lot. A lot. Shout out Blocka from Makeway in there, because he actually fucking listened to me back in the day. Nobody else would give me fucking pointers. So even like this Twitch shit, it's like, do you know how many people I'm trying to be like, bro, go online, make your album on Twitch. What the fuck do you care about copyrighted album sales? What, you're going to make $50 after a whole grind? Like, fuck out of here. Go up there and get some donation money making your album, so that your whole by the time your album is created, maybe you made $1,000. Now you go put your album up, and they'll go fucking buy it again because they were part of the making it. You know who proved that model? Mike Shinoda of Linkin Park. Okay? That's a guy to pay attention to, you know? Like, that guy knows a lot of things about how to fucking stay alive in this industry, because he's still fucking hot to this day. Crushing Twitch. Look at fucking T-Pain. Averages 5-figure fucking following on Twitch. I'm like, yo, there's already proven successful models.
For sure. But I was thinking about that over 10 years ago. Lives, Facebook lives, I mean, it's just so easy now. But 12 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever it was, I invited Boy Blue to come and make a song at the studio on live. It was Justin TV then. I don't know if you know about Justin TV, but if you wanted to stream live.
I do know what that is. Isn't that what turned into Twitch?
Is that what it is? I don't know if it is.
I might be wrong. I don't want to be like...
It was Justin TV at the time. There was no Facebook Live. There was no Instagram Live. I don't even think there was Instagram. So there was no Facebook Live. It was Justin TV. And Boy Blue came through, and I made the beat on the spot live. Boy Blue was writing his verses. He recorded it, the whole thing. We did the whole process live. It is
Twitch. Justin TV is Twitch.
It's Twitch? That's dope. That's fucking dope.
Oh my fucking gosh, dog. That's crazy.
I didn't even know. But you see, like, that's what it was then, and it was the only, if you wanted to stream live onto the internet, this was basically the only way to do it. Maybe one of two, or a handful of ways to do it. But we did this over 10 years ago, and that was exactly what you were saying was my whole concept. I said, bro, if people feel involved in the process, it's like, if you can do a snare and go, yo, do you think it should be a snare or a clap? And then people are like, make it a clap, and then it's a clap, bro. When that song drops, they feel like it's their song. And
big
it's like,
facts. So I'm watching my homeboy Lemef do this. He's practicing making beats. He's got this invested audience, and he has this thing. If you donate, I'll freestyle. It happens. I'm just telling y'all moves here because I want people to be incentivized. I'll tell you something. I did an album release in 2017 for my first project, and I did it at Flip the Industry Studios, and we did a live Facebook stream in 2017 for the whole concert because I knew I would never sell at a bar. This cost me $250 all in. And we ran the whole thing. I got video out of it. And the CEO of my company saw it. Because I was streaming to Facebook Live. And my name was right there in the video. And so all my colleagues saw, Holden, you did this? Holden, you pulled that off? wow, Holden, you're because dude, this was like before like you could just go live on your phone. Actually, it was like a little bit before that. So what I don't think people realize is that when you're like doing things like this, more people watch than when you're like trying to do some other shit, you know? And there's a lot of
Yeah,
games on the internet. Look, everybody read page one of Google. Okay? So if you're reading it on page one of Google, look, that was like a long time ago for a lot of people. When you're watching the 15-minute video, that was a long time ago for a lot of people. Trust, there's metagame strategies that are offline. You can't get that shit unless you're actually knowing people. It's not about money. You have to just know where to find the shit. You don't know that when you're on first page Google idea level and shit and whatnot. I don't know.
or even when artists go to the radio, because you're talking about how radio is still popping for sure, but when it comes to like local radio, the actual numbers I think are minimal, if like
Yeah,
non-existent. Anything. There's been
yeah.
times like I go to K103 back then where it's very limited market, but if I go to K103 and spit bars, I like for the next week, people are hitting me up saying, "Yo, I heard your bars," or people catch me on the street and say, "Yo, that you went in," whatever the case is.
So what's
I go to
crazy
CKUT.
is Don Smooth and them are now all on Twitch. And what I predict is going to happen is Twitch is going to become that. Only now people can chat with each other. Like, they don't know it, but there's a bunch of gambling games and shit they could be playing right now that won't show up on the video because they disabled the fucking bot. And technically, they could do a bunch of shit to be entertained if they're bored. They usually do it in the pre-interview, and for some reason, organically just kind of stopped as the interview started. I'm like, wow, everybody just knew to do that. That's so fucking cool. But like,
Yeah,
yo, there's ways to do it. I watch these DJ guys and they're fucking just vibing for 3-4 hours, and I'm like, nah, this is the future. And then I'm still having trouble convincing people that this is dope. So anybody that's doing it now, I'm like, yo, this is the moves, and everybody's got plans. You said something that made me go, yo, Cali's a fucking genius. I think I know what the fuck he's doing. And so I'm like, I get what you're saying, and I'm not gonna like suggest for whatever. Everybody's got ideas and moves to make, but like for most MCs, it's like, yo, you can probably talk, right? Like you're a fucking rapper. So just go online and talk. Just talk. Dude, I made Facebook chores part of I tested it out. I created Facebook events while I'm live, and I had like 7 people there listening to music while I created Facebook events. People will, if you explain this to them, be like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. My girlfriend was so against Twitch. I'm like, I bet if we Google studying right now, studying, we'll find a person studying. And there was one. Only one. And he was just flipping the pages on the book. And we watched it for like a minute. And I'm like, I told you, yo, this shit is about to be interesting. And then there's caffeine. So there's clones of Twitch that are doing well. Yo, when something's got a clone that's doing well, like, don't ignore it. Fuck YouTube. You know why? Because we're all fucked ourselves with DistroKid or whatever we use. We fucked ourselves on. We're all fucking stamped. So all their automated systems make a lot of things very complicated on YouTube. After this is done, my video is going to be demonetized and blocked in certain regions if they detect your music, but probably will because of the Jack Jones, whatever that fucking name. Him. His music is going to get detected, and I'm going to get shut down. And lately they've been blocking. Not just, they've been blocking, which is new. They used to just kind of take your money. Now they're shutting shit down. So that'll be after. They're cool with this live because I barely touched music. It took a lot of music. Facebook is shutting down lives very quick, and this is all related to EU copyright laws. But Twitch is about live. It really isn't about the video on demand, so they just mute your shit after. They don't give a fuck, and you still get to keep your ads. So it's really about the live experience, right? So, yo, if you're following copyright law, which if you're a fucking artist and you're not following Europeans' copyright law and you're yelling at Facebook for shit the EU's extorting them into doing, it's like, come on, guys. Are you really taking your shit seriously? Do you even know about copyright law? Yo, it took me about 2 hours of YouTube videos to start to scratch the surface of going, oh, fuck, I really don't get it, but I get it enough. Like, I didn't know that. Here's an example. Like the songwriting side, I didn't know that my beat maker always gets 50%. That's just the law. So I'm like, oh shit. Oh wow, that's interesting. Always gets 50% of the, not the masters, not the other side, but the songwriting credit.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't sell that shit. That's unsellable. Whoever wrote it will always get that.
The publishing, the producer gets half of it, the writer gets the other half. That's just automatic. And unless obviously you make a contract that says
Right, right.
otherwise, or you whatever. But yeah, that's automatic for sure. It's half half.
And like I don't think everybody knows that. But then there's also one that's songwriting and one that's publishing, and they're two separate ones. And then there's a full other one for broadcasting and a whole group of things put together. And then there's a whole bunch of the way radio does it is wonky. There's a pool that all the money gets thrown into, and then it gets distributed down based on how many plays shit actually fucking get. So like, do you guys like? It's like how can you make a calculated decision about where the future is going if you're not looking at the past and the present? And then, because people sometimes go like, how the fuck do you know things? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm fucking curious, dude. I just fucking talk to everybody, and I like being wrong. I don't like it, but I like being wrong because then I learn some shit. Like, Blaka basically told me I was a fucking idiot for my thoughts on Sony, and he put me in my place. And I was like, fair enough. And on camera, I had to change my mind because his argument was too good. And now I'm not going to shit on Sony anymore. I get it. They're okay not being first. And I'm like, oh, shit. That's because, Sony's going to, I was like, how are they going to compete? And they're like, you'll watch. This is what's going to happen. Facebook drops their VRs. Everybody drops their VRs. They go and watch everybody else do it. And then they drop their VR. And then Sony's the kind of company that has the kind of clout that they can ride out whatever. Because Sony makes real money, not from video games. They make real money. They make like R&D for like fucking big shit money. Like in video games is kind of just like a huge chunk of cash for them. But they like if the entirety of the PlayStation died, Sony would be like, okay, it's fine.
Actually, you're making me think of McDonald's. McDonald's invests millions and millions and millions of dollars every year in market analysis and choosing the perfect location to put each restaurant. Burger King, Wendy's, Harvey's spend $0 on it. What do? They wait for McDonald's to put up a restaurant, and they put one up across the street. They don't have to spend any money on it. So when you're talking about Tony, that made me think of that.
I'm glad you shared that. I didn't know that. I knew about McDonald's because you know how McDonald's makes money? Because McDonald's is like, it's real estate. Because 90% of their shit's franchised, right? So they make money buying hot pieces of land. Like, check that McDonald's on Saint Jacques, near the Canadian Tire by the 20 there. It's fucking a hot location. They've had that land fucking for how long? Imagine they put down $10K once upon a time. That shit's probably like a multi-million-dollar location.
But you know how many millions of dollars they lost when the highway got closed off because of the redoing the Turcotte interchange? Their traffic just died because you couldn't go there anymore. Basically, like it was a stream. Like Saint Jacques obviously is popping and it leads you to the highway, so everybody's going and they'll stop there. And once they close that entry off and to redo it, I
gotta actually wonder, because the hospital opened, which made the land double.
Yeah. In the long run, now they're gonna make more, and obviously now it's open back up, so it's good. But for those, and right when it closed down, the hospital wasn't open yet, and then the highway closed. Well, all of a sudden, they went from like making $1 million a week to making like nothing, bro. And I know somebody that worked there, and the owners were just shitting their pants, bro, because it just went from the hottest location to just shit. And it was just because of like whatever, it's a technicality, and in the long run, it's always gonna pay. But
I mean, like from the McDonald's perspective, right? Because the franchisee is the person who's
McDonald's got
McDonald's and they have to pay McDonald's rent too, right? So exactly. McDonald's is like, you got to open it here, and we're gonna charge you this much for rent. McDonald's is a pimp.
Oh yeah, for sure.
People don't even. I love software because software studied the pimping game and went out of its way to pimp. People get mad at gaming because they don't pay attention to software news. But if they ever looked at what your grandma was buying and how they got bought, I'm like, bro, like my company is clean. There is dirt out there, okay? And when you know what the dirt looks like, there are people who will call up. So you're like grandpa, whoever's grandpa will come across some website. Psh, psh, virus alert, call this now. They called a number, talked to the Indian man. Next thing you know, $350 for a technician service. Boom, boom, boom. But these guys are old. They don't even know what the fuck's up. But a lot of old people kind of have money to burn, right? So all of this is going on, but they're embarrassed. So you never hear about it. They'll never fucking tell you. Because
for sure.
They're embarrassed. So, imagine when they sign up for the Columbia House modeled fucking softwares and shit, and they get hit with $50 here, there. You know what? One time I paid for EverQuest for 18 months, and I didn't even know I was paying it. And then I was like 18. It was a big lesson in my life. 19, I guess. But 18 months I paid for EverQuest. I didn't even know. Imagine these old people. Now, I'm not talking about anything specific to an industry. This is public information. It's well documented shit. But those videos don't get millions of views. So most people don't care about it, is what I learned. I'm like, okay, it is what it is. But one day people are going to get real mad at software. And people are going to be like, yo, this shit's fucked up. And all the gamers are going to be like, yo, they're fucking my grandmother over with those microtransactions.
Yo, Pro Tools, man. I love Pro Tools. I bought them how many years ago? And I bought them bundled with my sound box, with my M box. So I got it included with my M box. I paid for maybe 2 upgrades along the way, a $79 here or a $59 here, and I've literally been using Pro Tools for like 12, 14 years, 15 years solid, and making money off of using their program. And then now it was time to upgrade and update, and I pay $40 a month, and I'm vexed. But you know what? Like, I made so much money off of it for so long that I'm like, you know what? I'll give you your $40.
Let me defend the software company a little bit. Shit's complicated now because it's all cloud based and there's a lot more expenses. So I work for a software company. Believe it or not, we need you all on the same version, the newest version, because customer service costs and shit like that are like really high, like way more than people really think about. So, you know what it's like to write a knowledge base for fucking 3 versions of the same thing because y'all motherfuckers don't want to update to the newest one? The amount of money that gets put into that shit, like people don't know these costs exist because they don't happen to have jobs like the guy who writes the PDF knowledge base. So I did that. I can tell you how many literal and I'm a fast fucking writer. I can tell you it would be a full-time employee dedicated per brand's knowledge base to maintain this. And it's like, yo, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Thousands of dollars a year, $50K a salary type shit, right? Just to get that. And so, yo, at the end of the day, they need you on the newest version. But they're also probably pushing out a lot of things a lot quicker, a lot faster, giving you a bunch of stuff on the fly because maybe not Pro Tools. Okay, but Pro Tools is Pro Tools. I don't know about Pro Tools.
Pro Tools is not solid like how it was. That's what I'm saying. I'm paying $40 a month now, and just yesterday I'm recording, and then the shit just everything disappeared. Not the vocals or anything, but the program just closed down. I didn't get a message that it crashed. Nothing. Shit just Pro Tools not open anymore. I gotta relaunch it. I'm like, bro, by 10 years, it's never happened once. I'm like, now I'm giving them $500 a year, and it's like. It's crashing all the time. Even when I read like the frequently asked questions, and I'm seeing it, and I'm like, bro, like I understand fixes, obviously. You know what I mean? Well, you'll know more than me in this world, obviously, if you're in that world. But like I understand, there's like certain crashes, and they'll tell you, oh, if this happens, just do this and do that, and it's fixed. But the things that I'm reading online that they know might potentially happen, and that they have the fix for.
There was like a whole. So when I installed Pro Tools recently I tried to get the free one or whatever, and I went through this whole like fucking third-party fucking launcher bullshit, and I'm like, what is this crap, right? I just wanted to try out Pro Tools and see if it would solve my problem. I feel like they got bought or like something happened, and they moved into the subscription model service. But here's the thing: sometimes big brands ride on their laurels. Now, Pro Tools is an industry standard, right? And here's how Adobe pimps it. Adobe goes up to the businesses, and they make their little dealy poos, right? And so everybody's using Adobe After Effects in-house and Adobe Premiere and shit. Now, if you're a freelance guy and you want to get corporate clients, you have no choice but to have Adobe, because the clients, and I know this, you want to have access to those Adobe files after, because you're only getting half the work done from that guy. You're going to finish the rest of it in-house because you don't need him to flip the fucking subtitles. It is what it is, right? Like, that's the truth of the matter. We're trying to save a couple grand. So, like, end of the day, everybody's kind of locked into it. And the same thing happened with Pro Tools. I saw it on your post, industry standard. I'm like, bro doesn't need Pro Tools. He needs Reaper at $60. He can export at 0. What the fuck does he need Pro Tools for? Like, is he fucking doing all this shit? And even then, Pro Tools is every fucking plugin you could possibly use. I learned how to DS on Reaper. Sorry, Reaper has de-essers. I just put in the digital fish bullshit, all the VST things. These are all things that work, and it's all for it's $60, bro. It's $60 fucking. Why do you need Pro Tools for? You might need Pro Tools because your shit's very different and you learning whatever. But for most of us, fucking get Reaper.
For sure. When it comes to, I tell them like what I use and the reason why I use it, but for sure I don't tell people, oh, you need Pro Tools. I never tell people you need Pro Tools. I tell them try out the different ones and see which one you like more, because they all do the same thing. Before, you needed to have Pro Tools to have a proper sound or anything, but now they all do the same thing. So
yeah, back to that point. I think Pro Tools is people believe that Pro Tools can ride on its laurels. So because it's an industry standard, business clients pay that price. And you're forced to use it because it's an industry standard. But businesses don't research like you and I research. Businesses trust industry standards. Like, you know how many companies pay for Adobe? But honestly, my PDF editor at work, in all of its whatevers, is actually a better suited app for like most people's needs at an affordabler price. It's actually true. We have a pretty good converter engine. We went out of our way to outdo Adobe for this round, and we did. We actually can convert your PowerPoints and shit nice. Well, and it's not really about that, but people will still pay for Adobe. They have 75% of the market share because they have celebrities. Yes, they use celebrities in their PDF campaigns, okay? They literally fucking got John Woo, I know this because market research at work. John Woo's a tattoo artist who fucking uses Adobe Sign and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what the fuck? They got Billie Eilish for their fucking Creative Cloud. I'm like, how do you compete with this? That's why Adobe gets it, because they're Zendesk is like another company. They own the world. Everybody's fucking help support site is Zendesk. You'll see it when you look for HC in the URL. If you start looking up and you look for HCs on support sites, you'll start to notice what a Zendesk looks like. Zendesk had a conference with celebrities at it, dude. This shit is nuts. Everybody doesn't even get where the money is as a performer. If you want to make money, get companies to pay you for your shit. You'll make $1,000 on the show a promoter will give you $50 for. You just got to be a little cleaner. Just a little cleaner with your brand, dude. Trust. Real money.
For sure.
All right, it is 12:45, and I want to keep talking, but it's fucking late, and I actually have one booked at 2 p.m. and I'm like, okay, no, I gotta actually wrap this up. But yo, thank you for being here. To me, this was a riveting conversation. It was everything I hoped it would be. I think it was fun. I think we talked about all of the shits we could ever fucking have talked about, and we just got started. I'd be down to just shoot the shit with you any other fucking time. It would be mad fucking fun, is all I'm trying to say. For those of you watching this in the future on other platforms, I just wanted to say thank you for watching, everyone. I totally appreciate y'all as well. Definitely leave us a comment so that when he fucking comes back, we'll be able to ask his questions, all that good shit. Yo, links in description. Follow the man, do all the thingies. Special thanks to the patrons: Ismail Good, MC, Chris Prado, Jonathan Barnes, DJ Black, Kirk, and Linda Williams, and Scribble. They're dope. They support what we do. And yo, basically, definitely, if you want to support us, you can hit that little subscribe poo button. We're trying to get more emotes, or you can also hit up that patreon.com/behindthatsuit. On that note, I really want to thank you again for being here, and live long and prosper, everyone.